This Tian. Many of the friars in the Terran army were stunned. Judging from the lethality of Tian was no less than Yen Lai, the leader of the alliance. The leader of the alliance is cut off one sword at a time. Each sword has a strong lethality, but there is a little time interval in each sword. But Tian is not. Although his attack range is smaller than Yenlia's, his attack is coherent, without any pause. Wherever he goes, no meditation can resist a move. Moreover, some high-level Terran friars also saw that there were a lot of Pluto levels among the Pluto who were killed by Tian. Can Tian kill so many gods? The shock in the heart of the Terran friars can be imagined. Ha ha ha, younger brother Tian, you and me are more likely to kill the underworld than anyone else. At this time, Yenlai killed all the Ming Zuns and fell down from the sky. He waved his sword to the Ming clan and laughed loudly. So good. An ethereal voice came from the sky. Everyone is familiar with this voice. It was said by Tian, but no one can find the exact location of Tian. Just from the scene of a large area of the underworld exploding in the distance, we can judge that Tian appeared there. The alliance leader is called Tian's younger brother? Some human friars murmured that the age difference was so big that they felt that the seniority was a bit chaotic. There is more than one friar who has this feeling. Some intelligent friars have smelled a different taste from the change of the name. All of you, kill the underworld. Then in everyone a Lang God's Kung Fu, the inflammation is strong but suddenly a big drink. Then his huge sword swept away in the distance, and thousands of Ming Xiu disappeared in a flash. Kill. Kill the underworld. The voice of the Terran friars was strong, and the cry of killing shocked the vast wilderness. Countless figures rushed to the attacking Ming Xiu in a flash. In the battlefield, Tian and Yen Lai gave way to some of the vanguard forces of the underworld army by tacit understanding, but at the same time they rushed to the rear of the underworld army. Without the support of the underworld army, these fragmented underworld monks would not be able to withstand the siege of the human friars. And Tian and Yen Lai cut off their waist, so that they can't take care of each other. Boom! Boom! The roar of the earth-shaking continued, and countless Mingxiu were killed by Tian for no reason. Yen Lai is also unwilling to lag behind, and each sword sweeps out a vacuum. Almost every moment, thousands of Mingxiu died under the attack of Tian and Yen Lai. They don't join hands. In order to avoid accidental injury, they are separated from each other for a long distance and don't interfere with each other, but they have the same lethality that makes the underworld scared. It's like a man wielding a huge sickle to cut wheat in the field. The wheat fell one by one, and then a batch of wheat filled it, and then it fell again. It didn't take long. On the battlefield, countless corpses of the underworld had been piled up. Looking around, they were everywhere. At this time, the Terran Friars' army had destroyed the vanguard forces of the underworld at a very low cost, and then they swarmed to kill the front of the underworld army. As a last resort, Yen Lai and Tian had to continue to fight behind the underworld army, leaving this battlefield to the Terran Friars. Otherwise, Tian is easy to say, but it's very difficult to use the burning sword skill, and it's very easy to hurt the people. Tian and Yen Lai are fighting wantonly in the depths of the underworld army when the ripples in the sky suddenly appear, and then a middle-aged Terran monk comes out. Allied leader, reinforcements are still 20,000 miles away. They are coming. Wearing a blue shirt, with a sword on his back and 5 long beards, he had a thin face and bright eyes. When he saw the fire, he said aloud. Yen Lai waved his huge sword again and said, "Don't rush to march. The situation here is stable. The next step is up to you." Yes. The blue shirt monk agreed and looked at Tian's direction with a little surprise. He pointed to the sky with 2 fingers in the middle of the meal. The long sword behind him made a clear sound of the sword. It came out of the sheath in an instant, and then it turned into an electric light and chopped to Mingxiu. The light of sword was only about 1 foot, but at the same place, the bones of Mingxiu's body were broken one after another, and the remnant limbs were flying, and the killing power was also extremely strong. The Terran friars had already gained the upper hand, and suddenly a big friar was added to help. The Terran army was more powerful, and its fighting force was as strong as the withered, and it quickly pushed forward to the underworld army. This is almost a one-sided massacre. In front of the two great monks in Tian, the endless army of the underworld has no resistance. A large number of Ming practitioners were killed, and the surge of the Terran monks came after them, which was also unstoppable. At a certain moment, the underworld army suddenly collapsed, and no longer had the intention to fight with the Terran friars. They turned around and fled to the direction of the underworld fog. Want to run? It's not that easy. Yi Tianling snorted and shot away towards the direction of Mingxiu's retreat. At this time, he is still in the role of hidden killing, can't see a shadow, even the sound of breaking the wind flying by didn't bring a trace. Where he was, there were still a large number of Mingxiu flying around. Up to now, he didn't know how many of them died in his own hands, and he couldn't count them clearly. He just knew that there were so many of them. Yan Lai and the long-bearded friar were not willing to fall behind. They were separated for a distance, and the imperial sword pursued them quickly. On the way to escape, Mingxiu left a large number of bones, which were also countless. The Terran army hid and killed until the underworld fled into the fog. Looking back, from the foot to the end of the western line of sight, the ground slowly is the corpse of the underworld, boundless appearance. The Terran friars cheered excitedly. How many years ago has the Terran ever had such a big victory? In the past, the Terran friars would pay for the lives of many friars in small-scale battles. Now we have killed so many underworld people, and the loss of the Terran friars is very small, even negligible. Everyone knows that after this war, the vitality of the underworld is bound to be greatly damaged, because countless underworld kings and gods have fallen in this war, and the cultivation of this realm is almost the backbone of the underworld. Although the number of the underworld is numerous, most of them are evil spirits. The underworld cultivation of the underworld soldier, the underworld general, the underworld king and the underworld god account for a very small proportion. What's more, in this war, Yan Lai also killed 6 Ming Zuns who are almost as rare among the underworld. All the friars thought that the war had come to an end, but they heard Yan Lai suddenly say in the sky, urge the magic stone, neutralize the fog, and recover the lost land. With that, Yan Lai's figure flashed into the dark fog. Yi Tiangang is about to make some moves, but there is a strong voice in his ear, Yi Xiandi, you should hold the battle outside, and you can fight with Lu Chen. As soon as the words fell, Yi Tian saw that the long-bearded monk's figure had disappeared from the distance. Ah, it turns out that this man is the king of Ningnan, Lu Chen. Up to now, he is really on the number, because there are very few physical bones attached to the body in the dark fog. When he arrives at the surface, all of them are replaced with white bones and tarsals. Yi Tian's face mask has lost its function, and he can only rely on his own cultivation to fight with the underworld. Therefore, Yan Lai said that Yi Tian did not enter the dark fog anymore. However, his mind suddenly moved, and the fierce sword appeared in his hand. Since the beginning of the war with the underworld, the fierce soldier's flying sword has always been flashing red and black light, buzzing and vibrating. Because Yi Tian was also invisible and killed the underworld, he later put the fierce sword back into Shumi commandment. He just ignored how crazy he vibrated in Shumi commandment. Up to now, he felt that the fierce sword in Shumi commandment was shaking more and more madly, so he wanted to take it out to see what it was. What he didn't expect was that after the fierce soldier's flying sword vibrated in his hand for a few breaths, it was beyond his control. It flew out of his palm and went straight into the boundless dark fog. As soon as Yi Tian's face changed, he didn't even have time to think about it, so his figure went after him. It's Yi Tian. He's not only very fast, but he's also an accomplished swordsman. He can't sense any power fluctuation. The flying sword is as fast as lightning. I'm not as good as many. The nearby Lord Yen witnessed the situation and sighed. How does he know that Yi Tian's face is muddled in the face of fierce sword? In the nearby dark fog, the army of the underworld has been swept away by the fierce fire and the land dust, and the battlefield is gradually advancing to the depth of the dark fog, leaving countless bodies on the ground. Yi Tian is in the dark fog, and follows the fierce sword. The speed of the sword is much faster than his escape speed. When Yi Tian was shocked, the fierce sword suddenly stopped, and then the fog was surging and rolling. In the beginning, there was no regular surge, just like the roaring waves of the wind, and also like the cloud and mist on the top of the mountain. But soon, the dark fog gradually turned into a regular rotation, and gradually formed a huge vortex. The end of the vortex was connecting the body of the fierce soldier's flying sword. The whirlpool rushes into the fierce sword, and the dark fog around it gradually fades away. Finally, the dark fog in a large area becomes thinner, and gradually disappears into the invisible. At this time, the fierce soldier's flying sword sent out a strong hum and vibration again, and came to the place more than 10 miles away almost like a blink, which stimulated a huge whirlpool again. If it wasn't for Yi Tian's telepathy with the fierce soldier's flying sword, and he could also observe the location of the fierce soldier's flying sword through the eye of the source heaven, he might have lost this flying sword if he were an ordinary monk. A bigger whirlpool than before is rapidly forming. It's as black as ink. Pure chi and resentment rush into the flying sword. The fierce soldier's flying sword is like a bottomless hole. After devouring the fog in a certain area, it changes another place and continues to devour. The friar who was going to stimulate the evil spirit in the magic stone to neutralize the dark fog had stopped, and had to follow Yi Tian's figure and continue to fly forward. Because the fog in the area they are preparing to neutralize has been swallowed up by Yi Tian's fierce sword. What kind of magic power is this? The master of Yenqing looks at the scene with a confused expression on his face. He feels more mysterious about Yi Tian. He often subverts his understanding of the monks and longmen realm, which makes people feel unfathomable. The fierce soldier's flying sword is constantly changing its position and swallowing the fog in the way of absorbing the vortex. Yi Tian suppresses the shock in his heart. He always follows the fierce soldier's flying sword's position and feels the change of the fierce soldier's flying sword. After swallowing a lot of fog, the red and black light on the sword body is more dazzling. Occasionally, a layer of white light appears, but it just flashes away. However, the buzzing vibration of the flying sword is more and more obvious. Fortunately, because of the pursuit of Yan Lai and Lu Chen, the undecided Ming Xiu did not dare to stay nearby, so that even a shadow of Ming Xiu could not be seen within 100 li radius. Otherwise, Yi Naivete can't imagine what kind of fierce battle will take place with those white skeletons in order to protect the fierce soldier Feijian. It seems that the fierce flying sword, which has swallowed a lot of fog, is not satisfied. It constantly changes its position, and the vortex of fog is bigger and bigger, and the speed of swallowing is faster and faster. The dark fog is rapidly decreasing at the speed visible to the naked eye, just like the ebb tide of the sea, pushing towards the depth of the fog. Bit by bit, time passed, and soon, the fierce sword had swallowed the dark fog hundreds of miles by itself, and it was still flying deep into the dark fog. At this time, the vortex formed by the dark fog is tens of times larger than before, and the vortex does not disappear after it is formed, but moves rapidly with the movement of the fierce soldier's flying sword. One side is engulfed by the fierce soldier's flying sword, but the other side is to roll up the dark fog around and gather into the whirlpool, replenishing a large amount of dark fog, as if dedicated to serving the fierce soldier's flying sword. In the face of this strange scene, Yi Tian has been used to it. What he is most nervous about is the change of the fierce sword. At this time, the red light of the flying sword is more dazzling, and there are black and red runes on the sword which have never appeared before. The rune pattern flickers, looms, disappears and emerges occasionally. With Yi Tian's attainments in the field, he can't feel what rune this is. If not, he still feels the close connection with the fierce soldier's flying sword. Maybe he has taken measures to stop the phagocytosis of the fierce soldier's flying sword. Even Yi Tian didn't know that it was a disaster or a blessing for him to let the fierce sword devour the fog so wantonly. After all, although the fierce soldier's flying sword is still his own immortal treasure, just before, he had lost control of the fierce soldier's flying sword for a short time. After watching for a moment, I saw that the whirlpool formed by the dark fog was getting bigger and bigger, following the movement of the fierce soldier's flying sword. Yi Tian's mind moves and tries to call back the fierce sword. This time, the fierce soldier's flying sword didn't have any abnormal situation, completely according to Yi Tian's instruction returned to the hand. But the huge fog whirlpool followed. Well, it's okay. Yi Tian's mind is slightly fixed, and he already guesses that the reason why the fierce soldier Feijin just got out of his control is that he just wanted to enter the dark fog. Now that we have entered the dark fog as we wish, the fierce sword will no longer disobey its master. It seems that the fierce sword is still obedient. Yi Tian's heart was a little more stable. However, he suddenly murmured to himself, the fierce soldier's flying sword is still obedient. Say this, even Yi Tian himself is surprised. He thought that before he knew it, he took the fierce sword as a living body. Monks control the magic weapon as a dead thing. No matter how powerful the magic weapon is, it's just a dead thing. Now he found that this fierce sword was like a living creature, as if it had its own will. Thinking about this, Yi Tianxin's shock is hard to describe. He holds the fierce sword and looks at the sword body with his source eye. It's not bad. When he saw that there was a black shadow in the body of the sword, Yi Tian was shocked. Obviously, the shadow is not the fog absorbed in it, not the dead thing like fog, but the heart beating and contracting. Occasionally, the shadow is creeping slowly, just like a living creature. Moreover, Yi Tian also gradually felt a cruel and ferocious air from the fierce sword. This kind of breath, Yi Tian had felt before, and he had been on guard at that time, but as the breath disappeared later, Yi Tian didn't care much. Today, the fierce sword flies against the usual, and Yi Tian's heart is filled with strong uneasiness. He frowned deeply, and continued to observe the black shadow, only to find that with the influx of a large number of dark fog, the shadow was gradually growing, and the shrinkage inside was more intense, gradually changing from irregular shape to slightly longer shape, growing along the body of the fierce soldier's flying sword. Yi Tian ponders for a moment, and suddenly his heart moves. He calls out Samadhi's true fire in the elixir field and begins to refine the flying sword. As the body of the flying sword keeps heating up, Yi Tian observes that the long shadow in the body of the sword starts to be restless. It seems that the body of the sword has become a hot cage. The shadow is rushing left and right, trying to escape from the encirclement of the body of the sword. Occasionally, the shadow would curl up, jumping and surging. It's a living creature indeed. Yi Tian was a great friar of Yupu in his previous life. He was naturally sensitive to this kind of thing, and the unknown is the most terrible thing. Although the fierce soldier flying sword is very precious, Yi Tian will not allow any accident for his own safety. He made up his mind to use his magic power to urge Samadhi's real fire to send out a more blazing flame and ignite the fierce sword. At a certain moment, when the shadow was struggling wildly, a woman's voice suddenly rang out in Yi Tian's mind. Yi Tian, stop, don't burn anymore. I'm the soul of Xianlong, the 8th level monster. I just woken up after being tempered into a sword soul by the power. If you can show mercy, I will recognize you as the Lord for 300 years and help you to practice Xianlong. To this woman's voice, Yi Tian was surprised. Once in the Earth's Valley of Life and Death, Yi Tian got a jade slip, which is the strange insect and beast spectrum. There are records about Xianlong in it. It's the 4th in the list of rare animals. Unexpectedly, this thing is the soul of Xianlong. No. As soon as Yi Tianlu thought about it, he felt that there was something wrong with it. He locked the shadow in the sword body and said, this fierce flying sword is made from the remnant blade I picked up. The rest of the materials were all checked by myself. I didn't feel your existence at that time, and there was no sign of soul in the remnant blade. The woman's voice said, I don't know about it, so I can only tell you everything I know. But before that, you'd better remove the flame, otherwise, once I'm destroyed by the spirit fire, there are some things you will never know. Yi Tian tightly grasped the handle of the sword to prevent the flying sword from eating back. Then he withdrew Samadhi Jinhua and urged, I have limited time. If I find any cheating, I will immediately release Samadhi Jinhua. No matter who you are, I will never leave a hidden danger in my body. The woman's voice didn't say anything more, and said directly, I'm the soul of Xianlong. It's true, but now I'm just a ghost. So the memory is incomplete. Maybe it's just because you refined it with the sword body and blade that you created the existence of this soul. I remember that the sword should have been called Ziyun sword before it was broken. It was from the name of Ziyun dragon. It seems that the shadow is pondering and pauses here. Yi Tian looks at the huge dark fog whirlpool in the sky, which is still surging into the sword body. He doesn't take any measures. He lets the fierce soldiers swallow the whirlpool first. After all, this is obviously good for the Terran, which can quickly recover the lost territory or plunder the occupied area of the underworld. I can only think of a little bit. It seems that before the Ziyun sword broke, I was cursed by the ghost of the underworld. And the reason why my soul woke up was because of the underworld spirit. No matter how specific it is, I really can't remember it. The woman's voice seemed to ponder for a moment before continuing. So you're the one who made the vision and vibration before that? Tian naturally doesn't believe what others say. He won't put down his guard until he can tell the truth from the false. Thus, he asked in a cold voice, trying to find some answers from each other's answers. That's right, it's me, because I feel part of my soul. It's in the dark air. Swallowing the dark air can diffuse the curse of the soul, and make my soul stronger through resentment. Women's voice continues to ring in Yi Tian's mind. Yi Tian nodded silently. He believed that the last sentence should be true. When he was on the Earth Star, the fierce soldier Fei Jian showed a strong desire for resentment, but he didn't swallow the dark fog at that time. Thinking of things on the Earth Star, Yi Tian said, "You should wake up on the Earth Star, right?" Earth Star? Where is the Earth Star? The woman's voice with a trace of confusion, "I never know where the Earth Star is. Maybe you have taken me to the Earth Star, but the real awakening, or not long ago, is also from then on. I know your name is Yi Tian, and from some circumstances, infer their own situation." Yi Tian's eyes coldly listened and said, "I don't care when you wake up, and no matter how many secrets you know about me. As a dangerous factor of instability, my purpose is to eliminate the invisible. Now there are only two ways, destruction or obedience. How to obey?" The woman's voice seemed sulky, but she asked with great patience. Yi Tian Light said, "Since you claim to be the ghost of Xianlong, then let ye search the soul. If you dare not, then I will not have curiosity. Direct destruction is." The shadow was silent for a moment, and then made a voice again, "Although you search for the soul, I didn't deceive you. Besides, I need your help to find all the ghosts that I don't know where. So, I won't try anything against you. If you don't believe it, I can also recognize you as the master and become your true soul. However, 300 years later, for the sake of my sincerity to you, let's terminate the contract and give me back my freedom. I'll talk about that later. Now you open your soul and want me to search it." Naturally, Yi Tian will not be dominated by the other party in the pace of negotiation, but insists on searching the soul first. "Well, it's just a ghost. If you're really interested, search for it," the woman's voice said helplessly. When Yi Tian saw that the other side agreed, he didn't say anymore. He put his hand against the sound of the sword, and his mind covered the shadow through the sword and began to search for his soul. Fortunately, when he ascended the Immortal Mountain, his mental perception ability had reached the peak. Otherwise, through the body of this fierce flying sword, he would not be able to search the soul memory inside. Yi Tian carefully looks at the memory of Xianlong. After a moment, Yi Tian finally stops. It's similar to what the shadow said, but there are some trivial things that Xianlong didn't mention, but it doesn't affect Yi Tian now. It's really the ghost of Xianlong, and she really felt another part of her ghost to become so crazy. After thinking about it, Yi Tian thought carefully and said, "Since you are a soul body and can't swear blood, then you can swear soul. After making soul oath, you can let go of the soul body and let me have the impression of God." The 8th level purple cloud dragon is equivalent to the monk in the heaven palace of the human race. In the face of such existence, although it is only a wisp of ghost, Yi Tian has to be careful. If the soul body makes a vow, the most effective means is to make a vow. Yi Tian doesn't have the slightest trust in the ghost of Xianlong now. The necessary means still need to be taken. If the soul body makes a soul oath, it will take the oath and lose. If it violates it, it will disappear. Hearing Yi Tian's words, the woman's voice said, "I know that I may have no choice, but it seems that it's still a good choice to follow you. I can feel that you are not an ordinary monk in Longmen realm. The reason why you have a 300-year appointment is that you will not release me before becoming a monk in Tiangong realm. 300 years, with your qualifications, should be enough for you to enter the heavenly palace. At that time, your vision will be higher, and you won't pay attention to the ghost of an 8th-level monster anymore." Hearing the woman's voice, Yi Tian said with a smile, "Do you have no confidence in me? 300-year time, do you want me to practice to heaven twice from beginning to end? However, the 300-year agreement is not bad. If I'm satisfied with it today, we'll be friends in advance and retreat together in the future. If we have different ideas in the future, I will naturally feel that if we always live in harmony, maybe in less than 300 years, I will give you freedom. How about that? The woman's voice heard Tian say so, and she even said with a trace of joy, "It's so good, but the master had better help me find the ghost as much as possible. If the soul is in one, the benefits to the master will definitely exceed the master's imagination." Tian said with a smile, "Since I have searched your soul, I naturally know what you know. Now I don't need to say anything else. Let go of your soul, and I'm going to mark my soul. Well, I'm not an ordinary monk." With that woman's voice finished, Tian felt that the long shadow in the sword body suddenly stretched his body loose. The palm of Tian's hand is against the sword. Through the body of the sword, he uses his perception of metallicity to infiltrate the spirit into it, and begins to imprint the spirit. Fortunately, this sword is Tian's magic weapon. No matter how high the metal Taoist art is, it is impossible to achieve the present situation. Although Xianlong is the soul of the 8th level monster, it is still a remnant soul. If it is a complete 8th level beast soul, Tian will not be able to imprint the spirit. However, the realm of the remnant soul is much weaker than that at the peak. At most it is the appearance that the 4th level peak is less than the 5th level. Although it is difficult for Tian to imprint this brand, because of his powerful spirit, as long as time is enough, it's still possible. After a long time, Tian finally put away his right hand and said to the group photo, "If you help me wholeheartedly, maybe you will be free in less than 300 years. As for looking for your ghost, you don't even know where it is. Let me help you find it. I can't agree to this. I have to rely on chance. However, if I happen to know the news of your ghost, I will naturally help you get it back and help you integrate under the premise of enough self-protection." In the last life, it took only 200 years for Tian to reach the realm of Jade and become one of the few great monks in the square-inch spiritual realm. In this life, Tian had rich experience in previous life, and cultivated the idea of Suiwang View, which was the first-class mysterious skill between heaven and earth. He got the true biography of Suiwang and achieved immortal body. In the process of climbing the immortal mountain, the perception of the 5 elements attributes of wind and thunder has reached the peak. It is certain to say that the time to become a great monk in Yupu realm in this life is much shorter than that in the previous one. It should take more than 100 years, and it will take decades or even hundreds of years to break through from Yupu realm to Tiangong realm. All in all, it will take more than 200 years at most. At that time, not to mention the soul of the 8th level monster, even if it is the 8th level monster itself, it has no fear. Naturally, it doesn't need to worry about the fierce soldiers flying swords. If backfire can melt spirit into sword and make sword exist spirit, then this kind of sword has reached the level of immortal. Tian estimated before that the predecessor of the fierce soldier's flying sword was a semi-immortal weapon. Now it seems that he has underestimated it. However, not all immortal tools will have spirits, because spirits are not so easy to find, especially powerful spirits of monsters. A strong Terran monk may be able to kill a high-level monster, but it is not very difficult to capture a high-level monster alive. Even after getting the beast spirit, even the great master of weapon refining can't guarantee that he can smoothly integrate the beast spirit into the immortal weapon. However, once the spirit of beast is successfully integrated into the artifact, its power is not comparable to other artifact. It has many advantages and great power. From the memory of the ghost of Xianlong, Tian didn't find the memory of the monk who made the Ziyun sword, why the Ziyun sword was broken, and where the remnant blade was left. But Tian knows very well that the remnant blade that cast the fierce flying sword was found on the earth, and the remnant soul of Ziyun dragon just said that he also felt his remnant soul in the dark fog. That's interesting. If it's true, as the ghost of Xianlong said, there are also the remnant blades of Xianjian, it's that the remnant blades of a sword appear in 2 different places, which is hard to believe. Anyway, Tian has to look for it. Maybe this blade is of great use to him. Then, under the guidance of Tian, Xianlong made the soul oath Tian needed. Until now, he was completely relieved. Feeling the emotional fluctuation of the ghost of Xianlong and the fierce soldier's flying sword, Tianchong opens his hand and lets Xianlong control the fierce soldier's flying sword to fly deep into the dark fog. Different from before, although Xianlong is in control of the fierce flying sword, Tian can manipulate it again with one thought. Even Xianlong can't disobey it. Because the ghost of Xianlong is just like all the pet of Tian can decide each other's life and death with one idea. Once you give the power to Xianlong, you will have another helper. You can kill the enemy without manipulating the sword yourself. This is the benefit of the sword spirit in the flying sword. Deep into the dark fog, the fierce soldier flying sword is still absorbing the dark fog crazily. The whirlpool of the dark fog connecting with the flying sword is bigger and bigger, spinning faster and faster, even driving the dark fog around for tens of miles to spin and rush, making a great battle. Tian felt it carefully and found that the sword spirit in the fierce soldier's flying sword was getting stronger at a very slow speed. Although the speed was slow, it continued to be stable and bigger. At this time, Tian can't help feeling a situation. Fortunately, he found the existence of the ghost of Ziyun dragon in time. If he found it too late, the ownerless sword spirit might control the flying sword and escape from his control. At that time, even if I can grasp the flying sword, I will not be able to imprint my soul because the soul of the sword spirit has recovered to a certain extent. Everything is just right. Now he hopes that the sword spirit will become stronger and better. Every strong point of the sword spirit means that his strength is constantly increasing. At this time, he even had some expectations in his heart, hoping to see what kind of power the fierce flying sword will play when the sword spirit becomes more and more powerful. Such a big battle has naturally attracted the attention of countless friars. Although they don't know what happened, the Terran friars all know that Tian is there, and it's Tian who makes such a big noise. Tian must have his reason for doing so. In the battlefield, when the Terran friars paid a little attention to it, they ignored it and continued to urge the magic stone to neutralize the dark fog. Deep in the dark fog, Yan Lai and Lu Chen have disappeared. I think they are pursuing the underworld to the deep of the dark fog. Tian manipulates the fierce soldier's flying sword and goes all the way to the depth of the dark fog. The dark fog behind him is neutralized by the Terran friars. The dark chi in front of him is more pure, and the fierce soldier's flying sword absorbs the dark fog there. Along the way, there are still countless corpses of the underworld, and there is no living underworld. More than an hour later, Tian had gone deep into the dark fog for 500 or 600 miles. When the huge dark fog vortex on the fierce soldier's flying sword was swallowed by the fierce soldier's flying sword, the vortex began to spread gradually, the rotation speed became slower and slower, and gradually turned into a rolling dark fog, mixed with other dark fog, and there was no difference. How? Tian asked the sword spirit. Master, I've recovered as much as I can. It's no use absorbing resentment and dark chi again. Then came the voice of the sword spirit. Tian nodded slightly. Although he felt some regret, he was still satisfied. Now the sword spirit breath has reached the level of 5-level monsters, which is equivalent to the original infant state of human friars. The sword spirit, with the power of Yuanying's mind, belongs to himself, and everything is transferred by his own will. Needless to say, my overall strength has been greatly improved by this sword spirit. Master, I sensed the position of part of the ghost. It's about 2,000 or 3,000 miles away from here. It's in the front left direction. Suddenly, the sword spirit made a nun's voice again. Tian hears the speech, slightly ponders, then says, "Lead the way." The sword spirit didn't say much more. He controlled the fierce sword. Suddenly, it turned into a flash of light and flew to the deep fog. Tian was so astonished at the speed. "Sword spirit, is this your fastest speed?" Tian asked. "Of course not. I'm afraid the master can't keep up, so I control the speed. The dragon clan is the best flying monster, especially the Ziyun dragon clan. It's the fastest one among all the dragon clans. The master can go to the flying sword to let you feel the ultimate speed of the flying sword." The sword spirit immediately sends a voice to reply away. When Tian heard the speech, he was ecstatic. He let out a long roar, and his speed suddenly increased. In a moment, he caught up with the fierce sword that was waiting for him, and stepped on it. Whoosh! The fierce soldier's flying sword started as if it had disappeared from the original place. It was tens of miles away in a flash. Tian, who was used to the speed of the fierce soldier's flying sword, could not help shaking his body and almost fell from the flying sword. Good. Tian is very happy. This speed has exceeded his expectation. Although the speed is not as fast as that of the monk of Washingjing, the ordinary monk of Yuanyingjing may not be able to catch up with the fierce soldier Fei Jian easily. The distance of 2,000 li is almost 10 breaths. It's already deep in the dark fog, and there's a rumbling sound in the distance from time to time. It's obvious that there's a big war going on. You don't have to ask, but it must be Yanlai and Lu Chen who join hands to strangle the underworld. Tian's feet leave the fierce soldier's flying sword. After an idea is passed to the fierce soldier's flying sword, his body has disappeared from the original place, and he is in the distance in a moment. Tian, you don't have to take the risk to come here. I have enough with the king of Ningnan. Almost at the same time, there was a burning voice in his ear. No harm, one more person, one more strength. Naturally, Tian will not speak out about the sword spirit. With the purpose of this trip, he follows the shadow of the fierce soldier's flying sword to the depth of the dark fog. The underworld people here are still en route, retreating to the deeper part of the dark fog, because the joint pursuit of Yanlai and Lu Chen is too fierce. Before, there were 2 Mingzuns coming, but there was little resistance in front of Yanlai, and they were killed soon. From then on, there was no high-level Mingxiu to stop them. Yanlai is invincible in all the other practices of the underworld without the 9 Yuming emperors. However, the appearance of Tian just suffered a lot of anger from Mingxiu. There are a lot of people who have never seen Tian's power. Seeing that a low-level Terran monk dares to go deep into the dark fog to provoke, they turn around and stop one after another. For a moment, all kinds of attacks roared, and countless bone guns and bone swords shot at Tian, with great momentum. When the terrorist attack came in front of Tian's body flashed and disappeared from the vision of many meditation. However, the fierce flying sword in front of him was shining with dazzling red and black light. Under the control of the sword spirit, he sent out a strong breath and swept away to Mingxiu. No matter how hard the bones are, they can't resist the fierce soldier's flying swords. Where the light sweeps, the broken bones, skeletons and broken limbs fall. The power of this sword was no less than that of the monk Yuanyingjing. Terran! Damn it! At this time, a powerful dark shadow of the demon king who lives in the flesh and bones comes in a flash, and the huge bone gun in his hand shoots towards Tian's position with the breath of terror. The Leaf Day in stealth sends out a light very surprised the other party can see through the position of oneself unexpectedly. As soon as he was in the distance, he took out the mask and held it in his hand. Previously, he thought that there was no underworld in the dark fog, so he did not continue to let the ghost mask appear. Now, in the dark fog, although many of them have replaced the bones, there are still a considerable number of them still use the bones. Because of being chased too tightly by Yanlai and Lu Chen, they didn't have time to replace them. As soon as the mask came out, the nearby Mingxiu, who lives in the flesh and bones, exploded. Tianxi didn't pay any attention to these cracked repair. His body was like a flash of lightning, flying past the underworld. In a series of explosions, when the underworld didn't react, the purple gold rune in his body exploded into countless pieces of meat, splashing around. This scene is too familiar for many meditation practitioners. No, it's Tian. One of them yelled, and then there was a commotion. The army that had stopped in this area collapsed again, and retreated to the depth of the fog. Tian hides and kills for a while. He finds that the fierce soldier's flying sword is flying in another direction. He has to keep his body and follow the flying sword. Along the way, many of them suffered, and many of them were removed by Tianshan hand in hand, even some of them were of high level. After flying for tens of miles, the flying sword suddenly suspended in the dark fog and sent out a buzzing vibration. The red and red light on the sword body was more dazzling. Master, I feel that my soul is deep in the earth. Then Tian heard the familiar female voice. He took a look around and flew around. After killing a lot of meditation, he cleared out a large area. Then he used his eyes to look underground. A moment later, the clear color on Tian's face appears. With a gesture, he moves the fierce sword into his hand, and then he uses the technique of Tuduan to escape to the ground. After more than 2,000 feet underground, he came to a piece of broken sword with irregular shape and looked at it carefully. At a glance, you can see that this blade is a broken sword. The edges on both sides are not damaged at all. However, the front and back of the blade are rugged. It is clear that it was broken by force, not by any sharp weapon. Looking at the color, texture and breadth, it is exactly the same as the original blade. Looking at the fracture of the remnant blade, Tian felt a little surprised. The hardness of the flying sword that can be refined with the soul of the 8th level purple cloud dragon can be imagined. It's such a Xian sword that can reach the level of immortal soldier that it was broken, and the remnant blade appeared in the earth and the wild spirit realm, which are irrelevant. It's incredible. Tian didn't collect the remnant blade directly, but continued to observe it with Yuan-Tian eye. After confirming that there was no field nearby and that the remnant blade didn't find any problem, he took the remnant blade into his hand. Just now, Tian did not find the existence of the ghost of Xianlong in this sword when he observed with Yuan-Tianian. Master, I want to merge the ghost now, and then I can continue to devour the fog and expand the soul. When Tian Gang was about to leave the underground, the voice of Xianlong came to his ear. Fusion now? Tian frowned slightly. It's obviously not the time for Xianlong to merge with the ghost. The upper Terrans are chasing the underworld. It's estimated that it will take a long time to merge with the ghost. As if thinking of Tian's mind, the ghost of Xian Dragon said again, Master, it will be over soon. The method is very simple. Just melt the sword, and I will naturally fuse the ghost. With the residual blade of Xian sword, the power of this sword will also be greatly enhanced. Now the chaos in the dark fog is just a good time to devour the dark fog. Well, it's here. Tian thinks about it a little, and thinks it's an opportunity. Otherwise, Johto Devil Emperor will get out of trouble and go to the dark fog again. I'm afraid he will take a lot of unnecessary risks. Just do what you say. Tian quickly uses the Big Seal magic weapon to create a space and takes out the spacetime tower to enter it. What's the situation now? Xin Luo, who had not walked out of the time and space tower for many days, heard the voice and immediately came up to ask. The Terran and the underworld are fighting. This is deep underground, and the underworld is already above. I came here to refine the flying sword, and then I have to return to the ground. Tian said as he took out the fierce sword and the remnant blade. Be careful. Xin Luo God shook Tian's hand and told him affectionately. Sun at this time also gathered to come over. Yes, Tian elder brother, you must be careful. If there is a 3 long 2 short, I and Luo God border became a little widow. Tian Dahan, where are these? He didn't say more and began to concentrate on the integration of the remnant blade. At the request of the ghost of Xian Dragon, Tian did not use Samadhi fire, but used the original spirit fire. The remnant blade was suspended in the air. It took a lot of time for it to melt under the burning of the original spirit fire. But at this time, Tian still didn't feel the existence of the ghost of Xianlong and the cruelty. Maybe it was the reason why he didn't wake up. Tian knew that the ghost was like a dead thing, an intangible substance. If he didn't wake up, it was hard to detect its existence. As time goes on, under the constant melting of the original spirit fire, the remnant blade gradually turns into a liquid, which is suspended in the air. When all the remnant blades melt away, the fierce soldier flying sword that has been waiting nearby suddenly glows red, and the remnant blade liquefies into countless filaments of gas, pouring into the fierce soldier flying sword. This strange sight lasted for more than an hour, until all the liquid of the remnant blade disappeared completely. Oh, I see. Tian, who always observes the sword spirit with the eye of the source sky, really understands how the sword spirit merges with the ghost at this time. When Tian melted the fierce flying sword, there was a trace of black air from the inside of the sword body, which was connected with the ghost of the sword spirit. Then the black ghost of sword spirit began to grow, and finally it was twice the size of the original. Tian felt it carefully, and now the ghost is still only 1, not 2. It's true that the original ghost of Xian Dragon fused with the ghost of the blade. Moreover, the brand of his mind is still intact, the ghost of Xianlong is still in his complete control, and even he can feel Xianlong's own extremely happy mood. However, the fierce flying sword with the remnant blade has a stronger breath. The color of the sword body is brighter than before, and the red and black light of the sword body is heavier. The black part is as black as ink, while the red part is deeper and closer to purple. As for the sharpness, Tian hasn't tried it yet, so naturally he doesn't know. Master, the fusion has been completed, you can continue to devour Ming Qi. At a certain moment, the ghost of Xianlong makes a sound again. Tian Dynasty Qin Luo God and Er nodded a little, then holding a fierce sword out of the time and space tower, came to the ground. It seems like a lot of time is wasted in the time tower, but the time in the dark fog is no more than an hour at most. At this time, on the ground, there was no figure of Ming Xiu, but the Terran army did not feel here. It's a good time. As soon as Tian let go, the fierce soldier's flying sword vibrated and flew into the air. In a moment, the dark fog billowed, and once again a whirlpool was rapidly forming. Resentment. Tian feels endless resentment surging in the whirlpool, and then is sucked into the sword. This kind of situation is slightly different from the situation that the sword spirit devoured Mingqi before. Master, although my soul has fused, it has not yet fully awakened. I need to nourish it with resentment, and then strengthen it. Seeing Tian frowning and meditating, the soul of Xian Dragon sends out a sound to explain. Tianlu nodded and did not ask much. He continued to observe the fierce sword with Yuan Tianian. As time goes by, Tian's heart is gradually released, and there is no abnormal situation from the beginning to the end. Sure enough, as the ghost of Xianlong said, she is using resentment to revive the ghost that has not yet fully awakened. The vortex in the fog sea became bigger and bigger, and soon reached a circle of more than 10 li, then continued to expand, and finally stopped expanding when it reached a range of more than 10 li. At a certain moment, the fierce soldier's flying sword flew deep into the fog and stopped after nearly 100 li. Just now the resentment of that area has been swallowed up by him, and the resentment here is more. However, the huge dark fog whirlpool followed by the fierce soldier's flying sword, and the dark fog in this area also kept rolling and surging. Yi Xiandi, get out of the dark fog quickly. The power of the Skylock array is about to run out. I'll go back with Lu Chen to intercept the 9th Yuming Emperor and others. You can attack the underworld after meeting with the Terran army. Don't fight alone. The underworld will fight back. After a while, just as the fierce soldier's flying sword was engulfing the dark fog, suddenly there was a burning voice. At the critical moment when the fierce sword devours Ming Qi, Tian naturally ignores Yan Lai's warning, but continues to let the sword spirit strengthen the ghost. The huge fog whirlpool was spinning wildly, and then the surrounding dark air became thin, and the fierce soldier's flying sword continued to devour it in another direction. After Yan Lai said that sentence, there was no time to say a word, which was obviously far away from here. Tian naturally knows the few things left in the power of the Skylock array, but according to his estimation, it will never be exhausted now. Unless there is a possibility, that is, the 9 Yuming Emperor and other 100 Ming practitioners who are trapped in the field constantly attack the field, greatly accelerating the consumption of the energy of the array flag. It seems that it should be so. The 9th Yuming Emperor must have been crazy when he saw the fierce slaughter of the underworld. There must be a big fight next. Tian is ready for the war. More than half an hour later, the expected underworld came back, still boundless. Looking at those in the dark fog fast flying over the Ming Xiu, Tian lips a smile. It seems that the underworld want to achieve a big counterattack, because what they see is that every underworld monk lives in the flesh and bones, not the bones and bones. This preparation must be prepared to fight out of the dark fog, to kill the Terran friars who sent out the magic stone. Tian's figure disappears again and becomes invisible again when he senses the Ming Xiu army. Then he came to the bottom of the fierce sword and was placed under the huge fog whirlpool. However, in the time of tens of breath, the great army of Ming Xiu came like a tide. They didn't find Tian, but they saw the scene of the fierce soldier's flying sword devouring the fog from a distance. Many of them rushed to the fierce soldier's flying sword in an attempt to capture it. It's just that unexpected things happen all of a sudden. Every Ming Xiu who was close to the fierce soldier's flying sword 3 or 4 feet away suddenly exploded and turned into countless pieces of meat. Tian. Yi Tian is here. Yu Mingxi suddenly yelled, and then countless spears and swords shot at the area where the fierce soldiers were flying swords. It's just a pity that all the bones passed by as if they were shot in the air. Let alone Yi Tian, they didn't even touch the fierce soldier's flying sword. The fierce soldier's flying sword, under the control of the sword spirit, flew up to the sky when the bone was shot, and continued to absorb endless dark chi. On the other hand, there were many explosions in the army. Don't pay attention to Yi Tian, go directly to kill the murderer monk. It seems that the underworld have nothing to do with Yi Tian's method. If a blow doesn't work, the general of the underworld will shout out. Under this command, many underworld people rolled by, regardless of the explosions everywhere and how many underworld practitioners were killed by Yi Tian, and continued to kill the West fiercely. The underworld army is still boundless and can't be seen at a glance. It's a pity that Yi Tian represses his mind in the dark fog, otherwise he can release his mind and observe many areas. The underworld army no longer cares about Yi Tian, but Yi Tian will never let go of this opportunity and let the fierce soldiers devour Ming Qi with their flying swords. He uses his body method to kill Ming Xiu. If you think about it, there is a distance of 3 or 4 feet in the underworld army. All the underworld practitioners in this area burst at a very fast speed and extended to the distance. How many underworld practitioners should fall in it? It was an extremely large number, and Yi Tian's flight path was changeable, suddenly horizontal, suddenly vertical, sometimes straight, sometimes curved. He specially selected the powerful place to attack, and everywhere he went was a mess of corpses. After a while, the underworld repair that passed through this area finally collapsed, leaving a gap nearly 10,000 feet wide. The underworld army would never pass by. When the strategy of the underworld changed, Yi Tian changed, no longer fixed in a certain area, but rushed around. The distance of 10,000 zhang, for him, was just passing through in a flash, coming and going like the wind, without any trace. Both Hades and Hades have no resistance to Yi Tian's mask. Nemesis of the underworld. Yi Tian feels that he has turned into the nemesis of the underworld at the moment, and detonates the underworld crazily. When Huashu gave him the grimace mask, he didn't expect such a scene. Because it's too far from the edge of the fog sea, Yi Tian doesn't know about the battle between the Terran friars and the underworld. But he knew that he had to kill the underworld here to relieve the pressure of the Terran. There is no essential difference between killing the underworld here and killing the underworld on the edge of the fog sea. After more than 10 minutes, Yi Tian finally saw the back team of the underworld. The underworld army has gradually thinned here. Then there was the empty fog, and there was no shadow of the underworld army. After a look at the fierce sword, Yi Tian passes on an idea, and then stealthily hides it from behind. The fierce soldier's flying sword flashed, carrying a huge whirlpool, the dark fog whirlpool, chasing after Yi Tian. Boom! 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 The explosion continued, and countless underworld people were inspired by the invisible lightning of the ghost mask. The purple and gold runes in their bodies exploded and turned into broken limbs. Yi Tian's speed is extremely fast, and the speed of explosion is also extremely fast. Every moment, there are many meditation dead. So continuous, never interrupted. 200 li, 300 li, 400 li. Yi Tian is chasing the underworld army, constantly thinking that the edge of the fog sea is close, and the distance is getting farther and farther. Hundreds of miles away, where Yi Tian passed, and within the width of 34 zhang, all of them were corpses of the underworld. At this time, the distant sky, the sound of boom and rumble. 9 Yuming Emperor and nearly 100 high-level Hell Revisioners are frantically attacking the shield of Lock Sky Array trapped around. At this time, the shield became thinner and thinner, and the recovery speed became slower and slower. This situation stimulated the fighting spirit of the 9 Yuming Emperor and others, and on the contrary, they attacked more closely. However, the 36 great monks holding the array flag look very ugly. It's obvious that the shield won't last long, and it's very likely that it will be broken by the 9th Yuming Emperor and others in the next moment. Don't panic. It's a big deal. If you can't, try to kill high-level Mingxiu. At this time, the ripples beside the Lock Sky Array flash, and the figures of Yan Lai and Lu Chen emerge. A word just finished, bang a loud bang, the thin shield finally and no energy continuous supply, by 9 Devil Emperor and others to break. Kill. Yanlai had a big drink in his mouth, and a huge sword had swept away to the 9 Yuming Emperor with the terrible pressure. Yanlai. I'm going to kill you. 9 Yuming Emperor roared, a huge golden bone glowing with shining golden light to the burning sword. Almost at the same time, the 37 great friars and the other high-level monks also fought with each other. Tian, the 9th Yuming Emperor is out of trouble, and I'm not sure I'll be able to hold him steady. You'd better stay away for a while. You're the one he wants to kill most now. Tian, who is killing the underworld, suddenly hears the burning sound in his ear. In a flash of thought, he put the fierce sword into Shumi ring, even put the mask away, and left here quietly. But in his hand was actually many a small moving sign. Tian is very good at the level of 9 Yuming Emperor. Although he has a grimace mask, Tian is not sure whether the 9 Yuming Emperor has purple and gold rune patterns in his body and can play the role of detonating. Moreover, this kind of cultivation will never let himself be close to 3 or 4 zhang. With the cultivation of the Heavenly Palace, the 9th Yuming Emperor has several ways to kill himself within 100 zhang. Tian wants to kill the underworld, but it's more important to keep his life. Sure enough, Tian gang had just left here for more than 10 minutes when the figure of the 9 Yuming Emperor appeared in the sky. As he made a low howling sound, circles of visible sound waves gradually spread. Joyo, your opponent is me. Come on, fight again. Just as he was using his means to find Tian, Yanlai was also late. As soon as he appeared, the huge sword cut off to the 9 Yuming Emperor again. 9 Yuming Emperor had to put away his mind, and the big golden bone met the huge sword again. With a spit in his mouth, a green fire was burning fiercely. Yanlai laughs and points at him. In the void, the waterfall falls down and pours on the fire. The flame immediately withers. Not to mention that, Yanlai pinches the secret with both hands at any time. The dark clouds gather all over the sky, and the powerful mana turns into a strong barrel to encircle the 9 Yuming Emperor. Then several powerful thunderbolts fell from the sky and directly hit the 9 Yuming Emperor. 9 Devil Emperor cold hum, gesture move, countless gold bone gun, bone sword skyward, meet those terrible thunder. Boom! The huge sound of collision, suddenly, resounded through the world. Yanlai and Yuming Emperor fight together again. Dozens of miles away, Tian was suspended in the dark fog. He watched the battle between them through Tian's eyes and the dark fog, and his heart was shocked. This is the first time that he saw with his own eyes the battle between the strong and Tiangong realm. The momentum is terrible, which is definitely not comparable to that of the friars in Yupu realm. Even the aftershock of the fight between the two sides made the underworld dead and injured below. The 9th Yuming Emperor saw that countless underworld people were affected by the war. He wanted to split his body and flew to the sky. Yanlai followed the gesture, the sword cut off a dazzling light, and the golden bone was put away by the 9 Yuming Emperor. The two top powers fought and walked to the sky again. Tian has found some problems in his short fight. It's obvious that the 9th Netherworld Emperor is a little weak because of the heavy loss of mana. But it's almost impossible for Yanlai to kill the 9 Yuming Emperor. The Great Monk can blink at any time. It takes a little time to lock the position of the Great Monk's blink. Therefore, if one of the Great Monks of the same level wants to escape, it is not so easy for the other to intercept even if he is a little better. Moreover, the 9 Yuming Emperor, as a monk, used the body to attach bones, which also hindered the exertion of his own strength. Yanlai in his battle, life and death is not easy to separate, but Yanlai must be firmly in the upper hand. And just now the soundwave skill of the 9 Yuming Emperor is obviously looking for his own stealth position. It can be inferred from the situation just now that even if the 9th Yuming Emperor comes near him and finds his position through the secret technique of soundwave, it will take at least 7 or 8 breaths, which is enough time to activate the small moving rune. So thinking, Tian's courage gradually increased. He took out the face mask again and detonated more than a dozen followers below. Then the electric fire generally flew away from here and flew back and forth in the Ming army in an extremely strange route. Boom boom. The sound of explosion just disappeared for a moment sounded again, and many underworld people burst out one after another. Then, the explosion disappeared and Tian was gone. In the sky, the figure of the 9 Yuming Emperor reappeared, also issued the Soundwave secret skill before. It's a pity that Yenlai immediately follows him, and they fight together again. There was another area of meditation around, which was affected and severely damaged. Haha, Joyo old ghost, are you a traitor of the underworld? Didn't you kill the underworld with me? When Yenlai saw this scene, he burst out laughing. Yenlai, you are mean. 9 Yuming Emperor, exasperated into anger, mouth a big drink, launched a counterattack to Yenlai. The underworld is also affected by the aftermath of the terrorist war, and there are a large number of casualties again. 9 Yuming Emperor had to fly to the sky. However, this time, Yenlai didn't chase after him. Instead, he said, Joyo old ghost, you are here. I'm going to kill your dark masters. With these words, his figure flashed and disappeared. 9 Yuming Emperor's face swept around and sent out a sound wave again. Unfortunately, after 3 or 4 breaths, he didn't find anything. He just disappeared from the original place. It was obvious that he was saving those Mingzuns. Boom! Thousands of miles away, Tian uses the ghost mask to kill Mingxiu again. Just now, when Yenlai was fighting with the 9th Yuming Emperor, Tian was hundreds of miles away. Only a heartworm was left far away to investigate the situation. C9 Yuming Emperor chase burning fierce to leave, he this just did ease bold ground killed. After 5 or 6 breath, Tian disappeared again. He can't give the 9 Yuming Emperor too much time to lock his position. He has to change his place with one shot. Let the other party can't find themselves. At this time, on the high sky, Yenlai, as he said, did not pay attention to the 9 Yuming Emperor, and began to launch a crazy attack on those Hades. Just a moment later, 2 Mingzuns died in his hands. And because of the use of acoustic secret technology to search for Tian, when the 9 Yuming Emperor came back, everything had happened. The 9 Yuming Emperor's face was livid, and he made a low voice in his mouth. The golden giant bone emitted light to intercept Yenlai. Stop Yenlai from attacking other Mingzuan. Because of the lack of 2 powerful opponents, the 37 great friars gradually moved back to some disadvantages. Yenlai grasped the 9 Yuming Emperor's psychology, while fighting with the 9 Yuming Emperor, while seizing the opportunity to move to Mingzuan, tied the 9 Yuming Emperor firmly to the battlefield in the sky. In the low altitude, Tian still adopts the previous strategy to attack and kill Mingxiu, who lives in the flesh and bones. A moment later, there was a burning voice in my ear, dear brother, although I have a free hand, the 9 Yuming Emperor has been entangled by me. Hearing this sound, Tian's heart is fixed, and once again releases a fierce sword to devour the fog. However, he is quietly shuttling through the army of the underworld, harvesting the lives of the underworld without any effort. Under the fierce sword's crazy phagocytosis, the nearby dark fog gradually thinned, and a large vacuum appeared. Just as Tian wanted to change another area to continue to devour, he saw that in the west, the underworld army retreated like a tide. Finally back. Tian's heart a joy, stealth fierce pursuit of the poor, in an instant there are countless underworld killed in the fog. After more than half an hour's pursuit, Tian stops. At this time, he has gone deep into the dark fog thousands of miles away again, and the dark fog vortex not far away has begun to slowly dissipate. This shows that the fierce soldier's flying sword has reached the saturation level, and the sword spirit should have been restored to the maximum extent. The next moment, his figure moved, holding the fierce sword in his hand, he felt it carefully. Yes, Xialon's spirit breath is much stronger than before, and has reached the level of level 5 monster. Tianchang let out a long cry, put away the fierce sword, turned and flew to the edge of the western dark fog. The underworld people here have retreated. There are only dead bodies everywhere. There is no living underworld cultivation. Stealth flying hundreds of miles away, Tian suddenly looked up to the sky, only to see the high sky, more than 100 shadows flash away, flying eastward at a very fast speed. 9 Yuming Emperor also fled? Tian murmured a low voice. From the figure of those people, he saw the figure of the 9 Yuming Emperor, and it was Yenlai and other human friars who chased after him. Tian couldn't take part in the battle between the Ming Emperor and the great friars of the human race, and he didn't pay much attention to it. A moment later, Yi Tian's figure appeared on the edge of the fog sea. Here, countless human friars are urging the magic stone to produce evil qi and neutralize the dark qi. With a glance, Yi Tian has found that the Terran has come to the rescue, and the number of friars before is not so large. Yi Tian! Yi Tian! As soon as his figure appeared, a burst of cheers broke out among the friars of the human race, and then the shouts became louder and louder, ringing all over the world, one after another and lasting for a long time. The Terran friars welcomed the hero back in their own way. For some high-level monks, Yi Tian's invincible achievements in the dark fog cannot be concealed. One person knows, it means more people know. Because all the friars knew that Yi Tian killed all sides behind the enemy to intercept the reinforcements of the underworld, so the Terran friars were very excited. In this war, the loss of the Terran is very small, but the underworld has already broken their bones and muscles, greatly damaged their vitality. This is an unprecedented victory of the Terrans over the underworld in the history of history. It is a huge victory that we never imagined before. Looking at the corpses of the underworld all over the mountains, all monks know that the history of the underworld being stronger than the Terran has been rewritten, and the underworld will no longer pose a fatal threat to the Terran with an overwhelming advantage. All this, of course, has the merit of Yen Lai and other great friars of the human race, but among the bottom friars, the one who makes the greatest contribution, even plays a decisive role, is Yi Tian, who is only in Longmen realm. It's a legend. It's a miracle. Maybe thousands of years later, it will still be a great scene in the great wilderness. These friars are even excited to witness the birth of this legend. Maybe many years later, they can say to their children and grandchildren that once, your grandfather, your grandmother and I fought side by side with Yi Tian. But now Yi Tian only has the late cultivation of Longmen realm. His strength in this battle, the qualification test of Longmen Xingzi, and even his impressive performance in the selection of Longmen Xingzi have been widely spread. Few monks doubt that as long as Yi Tian is given enough time to grow up, his achievements will be unlimited. Even become the most legendary generation of great friars in the history of the human race. Although he is still in a low level, he has won the respect of all monks. Let countless monks of the same realm look up, let many monks of high realm feel ashamed. Looking at the scene in front of him, Yi Tian's eyes are slightly moist. No one can be indifferent to such cheers. He just did what he should do. However, the sense of identity of the Terrans to him makes him have a strong resonance with the Terrans in the wilderness spiritual realm again. As if this is my home. Waving to the Terran friars' army, Yi Tian falls to the ground. His appearance has stopped the friars who inspired the magic stone, and the action against the underworld is temporarily suspended. If not, I don't know when to stop. When he comes to the place where there are fewer monks, Yi Tian takes out the magic weapon cave. After zooming in, Yi Tian called out the 11 disciples and 96 Kunlun practitioners. See Master. See the Grand Master. After a red tape ceremony, Yi Tian gave Nieba a Shumi ring and said, this time the Terran and the underworld have just experienced a war. They need to urge the evil qi and the underworld qi in the magic stone. There is a magic stone in the Shumi ring. I'd like to share it with you and do my best. Without too much introduction from Yi Tian, looking at the corpses all over the mountains, these people can also guess how fierce the war is. Master, you should let us out during the war. Nieba took over Shumi commandment and said excitedly. Oh, this is the strange master, mainly because your realm is too low, master forgot your existence. Yi Tian said with a smile. Nieba and others were speechless immediately. Even some friars around them felt this situation. This scene is extremely strange. A Longmen monk said that Jindan monk's accomplishments were too low. Haha, it's ridiculous. But what's more ridiculous is that these monks in Jindan realm are actually the disciples of that monk in Longmen realm. But it's not the most ridiculous. The most ridiculous thing is that some strange people with meat wings actually call that monk in Longmen realm their ancestor, and their cultivation is also in Jindan realm. But, think about the person in front of you is Yi Tian. These friars did not feel funny at all, let alone weird. Because it is Yi Tian, just Yi Tian, all strange things can explain the past. Just because he is Yi Tian. Yi Tian said, these people naturally did not disobey, people surrounded Miaba to the edge of the fog sea, and joined the army to stimulate the magic stone. Master, please accept me as a disciple. Some human friars come over and shout, and they will prostrate themselves in front of Yi Tian. When his knee touched the ground, he was surprised to find that Yi Tian's figure had been lost in front of him. Even other monks who wanted to learn from him could not help but stop. Because Yi Tian has already gone away, no one knows where he is gone. At this time, Yi Tian, after leaving a few heartworms in the sky, drives the fierce sword to the newly built Huajie pool. Soon, the shadow of a flash in the sky, Yi Tian has fallen to the edge of the pool. Yi Dao Yu. At the edge of Huajie pool, there are more than 10 Terran friars scattered to guard. One of them, who is nearest to Yi Tian, is in a hurry to hold his fist and salute. Yi Tian nodded. Liao Daoyu, hard work. Yi Tian is one of the golden elixir monks who built Huajie pool with him. I'll see the water. With that, Yi Tian put his eyes to the water. A moment later, Yi Tian nodded with satisfaction. The chemical composition of the water in this pool is lighter than that of the aged one, but no matter how light it is, it has the chemical composition. After a few more days, the effect will gradually appear, and eventually surpass the effect of aging. After reading, Yi Tian completely relieved. This is the same as his imagination, there is no deviation. After the inspection, Yi Tian left here, chose a remote place, went underground and came to the spacetime tower. Qin Luo and Ear explained the situation and then began to practice. Today's Yi Tian doesn't have much time for the whole piece, so he can only use these pieces of time effectively. The underworld has retreated, and the 9th Yuming Emperor has been killed by Yan Lai. There won't be a large-scale war in the future. The main character is Zhang He Ningqi, who sets up the looting embers. Because the result of this victory is larger than expected, and the area of payment is likely to be much larger than expected. Next, it will take a long time to neutralize the dark fog, and this kind of action is not much for the more leafy days, and not much for the less leafy days. Since all his disciples and grandchildren have been sent, Yi Tian will no longer participate. Time goes by bit. Yi Tian didn't know how many days had passed in his cultivation, because there were Liangxingkong outside, and he could observe things happening outside. On this day, Yi Tian, in his cultivation, suddenly opened his eyes, changed into a new suit, walked out of time and space and came to the ground. Then the body shape flies to the east with the fierce sword. After the blessing of sword spirit, the speed of the current fierce flying sword is more than twice as fast as before, but in this case, Yi Tian doesn't release the full speed, but maintains a normal speed. More than an hour later, Yi Tian appeared at the edge of the fog sea. It is more than 8,000 miles away from the initial battle with the underworld. In front of us is still the boundless dark fog. There are still many monks urging the magic stone to neutralize the dark fog. And the edge of the dark fog is retreating slowly at a very fast speed. You can take care of your younger brother. See Yi Tian appear, burning fears suddenly appear and come out, concerned ground asks away. Yi Tian said with a smile, it's okay, I closed a small pass. Come and see if you can help me today. Well, these things don't need to be dealt with by a good brother. I'm going to go deep into the dark fog again, and then I'm going to set up the looting embers, and then the dark fog will be neutralized slowly. Yan Lai waved his hand and said, that's good. As long as there is no powerful meditation attack in the fog, there should be no problem. Yi Tian nods his head slightly. The underworld is not a problem. After this war, the strength of the underworld has been seriously damaged, and it is no longer enough. But for once and for all, what about the newly built Huajie pool? Can the spirit of destruction be removed from the monks? The burning fierce vision eagerly looked at the leaf sky. Yi Tianwan went to the direction of the new Huajie. Before the closure, I went to Huajie. There was no problem with Huajie. After these days of cultivation, it should have exceeded the effectiveness of the old one. Although the leader of the alliance was relieved. Smell speech, burning fierce look loose, then laugh away, in this case, I have no worry place. With that, Yanlai flew up into the air, waved his big hand and yelled, all Bujia friars, go to the target area. With his cheering, many friars nearby rose up and followed Yanlai to the deep fog. Friars are dense and overwhelming. They have drawn a long line horizontally, and there is no boundary on either side. Congratulations to the Bujie warrior. I don't know who called out suddenly. After that, there was a chain reaction immediately. The monks on the scene saluted those figures one after another, and they also called out the words just now. Congratulations to the Bujie warrior. Congratulations on Bujie's courage. The voice resounds through the world, one after another, continuously. For those friars, Bujie is like going to disaster. The fate of Bujie is uncertain. Although it is said that there is a breath of Huajie water, no one has ever seen the real effect of Xinhua water. It is impossible to accommodate so many people. Even if the robbery can be successfully transformed, according to the past situation, even if the monks who are infected with the breath of destruction can transform the breath of destruction, they will have a long period of weakness. It can be said that once infected with the breath of destruction, it is likely to affect the monk's life, block the monk's pace of practice, and even more likely to fall because of it. Therefore, these friars who are able to set up the looting embers are well-deserved warriors. They are heroes who sacrifice themselves for the sake of the human race. They are worthy of respect and admiration. The Terran has such a warrior, such a mind and feelings, how can it not be strong? Looking at such a scene, Tian can't help feeling in his heart. All of a sudden, he was about to follow the monks into the dark fog. But at this time, the Marquis of Lanling suddenly appeared in front of Tian and stopped him. Yi Xiaoyu, the leader of Yan Alliance, said that you will never be allowed to approach the embers, and you will not be infected with the smell of embers. What's more, the leader of the Burning Alliance also gave us a more important task, that is, to guard the Xinhua plunder pool. Before getting rid of the breath of plundering by the plundering warriors, we must not allow any mistakes in the Hua plunder pool. At the beginning of those words, Tian wanted to refute them, but at the end, Tian also thought it was true, that is, there must be no loss for Xinhua to rob the pool. If there is a problem in the Xinhua looting pool, it is tantamount to the invisible interruption of the lives of those looting warriors. This matter is absolutely more important than seeing how those warriors rob themselves. Thinking of this, Tian solemnly nodded and said, in this case, let's go to Huajie pool. Naturally, the Marquis of Lanling had no objection. With a moment's greeting, he led tens of thousands of monks to the Huajie pool. Such a lineup, Tian's heart all-in, tens of thousands of people guard a Huajie pool. It can be seen that Yanlai attaches great importance to Huajie pool. He couldn't help thinking about it in his heart. When he came to Huajie pool, it was still calm and there was no abnormal situation. However, Tian thought that Yanlai attached great importance to it, but he did not dare to take it lightly. He flew quickly at the edge of Huajie pool, gestured one after another, and each immortal jade with magic power broke into the big stone on the bank. Yi Xiaoyu, what's this? Lan Ling Ho asked in a puzzled way. Tian looked around at the scattered bank in the shimmering light of Huajie pool, and explained, since the leader of Yan Alliance attaches so much importance to Huajie pool, I mean there must be no difference. I'm going to set up a field above Huajie pool. Although it can't stop the high-level alien, it can also prevent someone from throwing poison into the pool. You know, once a lot of toxins are mixed into the water of Huajie pool, the water will be wasted. What's more, the whole Huajie pool can no longer produce Huajie water. There are tens of thousands of monks here. Are you afraid that someone will poison you? Lan Ling Ho asked with a flash of vision. Tian haha says with a smile, younger generation is also a precaution, in short, more protection, there will be no mistake. Well, if there's anything I need to do, just ask. Hearing the speech, the Marquis of Lanling looked solemn. Tian Dao said, it doesn't need anything. It's just that the tens of thousands of monks are 3 li away from Huajie pool, and the younger generation can use this space to arrange the field calmly. Lan Ling Ho nodded, turned to leave, and called many friars by the pool to withdraw for a distance. The Huajie pool is tens of miles around and has a huge area. Tian can't set up a high-level field. As he said, it's just a simple protection, even if it adds a cover to the Huajie pool. It took him nearly 100,000 xianyu in 6 or 7 hours to complete this simple field. When the last piece of fairy jade is underground, Tian checks around the shore carefully, and then he plays a few magic powers and starts the defense field. Hum. A sound rang out, and a transparent shield was immediately covered on the pool. This shield is very thin. If you don't look at it carefully, I'm afraid you can't see its existence. The defense of the shield is not very strong. It can only resist the attack of the monks in Longmen realm. If you change to be a monk in Jindan realm, I'm afraid it won't be long. After that, Tian checked the water and found that after a period of cultivation, the quality of the water has indeed been checked. After all, it has been more than 10 days since the arrangement of the water. This is also a normal phenomenon. It takes at least 7 or 8 days to set up the cataclysm and the dark fog, so the next task is to guard the cataclysm pool and wait for the return of the cataclysm warriors. In order to prevent accidents, Tian took advantage of the patrol time, quietly released more than 20 heartworms, flying to all directions to investigate the movement. On the first day, everything was quiet, and time passed quietly. The next day, the third day, the fourth day, the same. On the fifth day, Tian, who was sitting on the edge of Huajie Pool with his knees crossed, suddenly moves in his heart and says to the Marquis of Lanling not far away, "Marquis, there will be demons in the future." The Marquis of Lanling opened his eyes and looked around. He didn't find any demons. Then he opened his mind. A moment later, he asked with a look of surprise, "What Yi Xiaoyu said is the 3 demons 20,000 miles away?" Tian nodded slightly and said, "Yes, the direction is coming here, but whether it's a coincidence or not is unknown. Since we guard the Huajie Pool, we should try our best to avoid bad consequences if there is any danger." The Marquis of Lanling nodded deeply, but then asked, "Can you know the situation 20,000 miles away?" Although he stayed by the Huajie Pool, the Marquis of Lanling couldn't open his mind at any time to check the movement around him. All these things were handed over to the friars below, but ordinary friars didn't have such strong mind at all, even the friars of Washingjing. Therefore, Tian was the first to warn, which really surprised the Marquis of Lanling. Tian simply explained, "I have some other means. Of course, I don't rely on divinity. Yi Xiaoyu has a lot of tricks." The Marquis of Lanling sighed, and then said, "Those 3 demons should have 1 demon and 2 demons. If they go so far into the border between the Terran and the underworld, even if they don't come for the purpose of robbing the pool, it's probably not good. If they really come here, I will take people to intercept them later, and you will be responsible for guarding here. Tian can't take part in the battle between the Demon Lord and the Demon King, because although the Ghost Mask is the assassin's mace of the underworld, it is useless to the demon family." "Wait a minute, Mr. Ho. I found a problem. The devil should be able to make a big move. Why didn't the devil make a big move? It's flying with 2 demons. There must be something strange about it." Tian saw that the Marquis of Lanling stood up to summon his hands and hurriedly reminded him. "What Yi Xiaoyu means is that the demons have the meaning to transfer the tiger from the mountain and then start again?" The Marquis of Lanling is startled and thinks that Tian's analysis is reasonable. Tian gently shook his head and said, "I'm not sure, but since I'm guarding Huajiechi, I should prepare for the worst. I think it's better to ask some great monks to support us and see what the demons have in mind. If they don't get rid of their hidden hands, the Huajie Pool will always be on their mind. Once the looting warriors return, they will take action again, and then the crime will be great." Listen to Tian finish. Lanling Ho silenced for a moment, and then nodded. "Yi Xiaoyu, or you think carefully, not afraid of 10,000, afraid of just in case, I'll send a message." With that, the Marquis of Lanling took out a messenger and said a few words in a soft voice, which turned into a fire and inspired him to go out. Soon, the Marquis of Lanling suddenly put out a noise shield without warning, put her and Yi Tianmao in it, and then took out a message from his arms, in which came the voice of the king of Jinbei. "This matter has been known by our king and the leader of Yan Alliance. We will pay attention to the movement of Huaka Pool at any time. You can leave Huaka Pool at ease." After the voice in the messenger finished, it turned into a fire and flew around at any time. "Then I'll leave to see what the demons have in mind. Yi Xiaoyu should be careful. Your safety is the main concern." Lan Lingho ordered a few words, then removed the noise shield. With her, there are 5 monks of Huajinshi. The Marquis of Lanling ordered 3 of them, and then drove Duanguan to meet the 3 powerful demons. Tian always felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't say anything at the moment, so he had to cheer up and carefully observe the monitoring pictures in his mind. Especially the 3 demons. In the picture, it seems that the Marquis of Lanling and the 3 monks of Xinjing are flying to the other side. The 3 demons stay in the same place for a while, as if they are talking about something. After a while, seeing that the Marquis of Lanling was getting closer to them, he turned around and flew back. It seemed that he had given up this action. At this time, there was a sudden ripple wave above the Huajie pool, and 3 tall demons appeared above the Huajie pool. Yes, the original plan of the demon clan is here. It's really a diversion. But it seems that there is no need to divert the tiger from the mountain. These 3 demons are very powerful, and each one surpasses the Marquis of Lanling. Even one of them has a strong breath. Maudi Bishio. Yi Tian immediately responded that Bishio was the only one of the demons who could have this realm. Just when Yi Tian was surprised, a ripple flickered in the sky again. Yan Lai, with Lu Chen, the king of Jinbei and 2 other great monks, appeared above the Huajie pool. Bishio, how dare you go deep into the Terran territory? I don't want to interrupt your magic legs. As soon as Yan Lai appeared, a huge sword had been cut to Bishio. The other 4 great friars also started with the other 2. Bishio made a gesture, and a big stick with a few feet long was shining with dazzling golden light. He suddenly hit the huge sword, but he laughed and said, Yan Lai, your Terran friar stole my treasure house. Today, I'm going to destroy the Huajie pool in front of you, so that your Yan Lai face will be lost. During the conversation, Bishio and his 2 demons all made a gesture, and thousands of black balls with a diameter of about feet fell from the air and went straight to the Huajie pool. Dare you? Seeing this, Yan Lai's face changed greatly. He made a great effort to make a big net and swept away to some nearby balls in an attempt to stop those black balls from falling into the pool. The other 5 Terran friars also used their own means to intercept the black ball thrown by the demons. Late. Bishio let out a big drink, and a long black gun came out to stop the big net of mana. At the same time, another black mana was sent out to stop the other monks' Taoist arts. In addition, even the demons used to attack the 5 great friars. Although the interception of Yan Lai and others played a role, they only intercepted 12 out of 10 black balls. Some of the black balls were stopped by 2 quick reaction monks of Huaxinjing and Huajiechi, but most of them fell into Huajiechi quickly. No! Yan Lai's heart exclaimed, so far away, it's too late for him to use his means again. He can't help but get angry in his heart, and his momentum erupted again. He fought his life to launch a crazy attack on Bishio. But who knows, when those black balls are about to fall into the Huajie pool, they are stopped by the thin shield arranged by Yi Tian. Many black balls are on the shield, jumping up and down, but none of them can break through the shield and fall into the Huajie pool. Bethune, your dream is broken. Seeing this scene, Yan Lai laughs, but his hand is not relaxed. The huge sword is carrying the terrible power to kill Bishio. On the other side, the 5 great monks besieged the 2 demons, who had been injured to varying degrees. Let's go! Seeing the failure of the plan, Bishio gave a loud drink and disappeared from the original place. Just as the other 2 demons were about to perform the big move skill, how could Yan Lai let them go? He immediately pointed to them and drank, sure. A powerful mana of confinement was sent out, and the 2 demons suddenly took shape. The weapons of the 5 great friars, including Jinbei King and Lu Chen, had fallen on them. In an instant, the bodies of the 2 demons turned into countless pieces of meat, and even the Yuan god could not escape, so he fell into the sky. Those pieces of meat fell to the Huajie pool, and were also stopped by the shield, which looked extremely miserable. At this time, ripples reappeared in the sky, and the figure of Lanling Marquis came out. Well done, Marquis Lanling. Thank you for your alertness. Otherwise, I'm afraid there will be a big disaster today. Seeing the Marquis of Lanling, Yan Lai praised him with great satisfaction. The Marquis of Lanling was greatly embarrassed. He glanced at many black balls on the shield and explained, I didn't find the leader of the alliance. It was Yi Tianxie who first discovered the demons and saw through the tricks of the demons. After listening to his analysis, I sent out the message. What's more, the shield on the Huajie pool is also a precaution made by Xiaoyu in advance because he was worried that some alien people might throw poison into the pool water. All this is due to Yi Tianxie. How dare Marquis Lanling take credit for it? Good, Yu Yixiendi. When it comes to the critical moment, it's your ability to ride the waves. It's really lucky to have you here. Burning strong smell speech, body shape movement fell on the Leaf Day's side, extremely affectionately patted Leaf Day's shoulder. Leader Yen, I'm flattered. It's just a matter of loyalty. I'd like to see what the demons have thrown down. With these words, Tian grabs a black ball from his passport. Show with the nose smell, and then the source of sky eye shine through, looking inside the black ball. Soon, Tian put the black ball aside, and his face became very ugly. How? What is this black ball? Yen Lai also rolled up a black ball with his magic power, looked at it and put it down. Tian gritted his teeth and said, surely the leader of the alliance can see that the main ingredient in the black ball is a kind of extremely vicious corpse poison. Yes, there is a kind of corpse poison. I have seen it, but it will never be the only one. Although the corpse poison is vicious, it is not without solution. With the ability of the Terran friars, they can use the elixir to remove the corpse poison. In this way, it is meaningless for the demons to cast the corpse poison. Yen Lai nodded slightly and said, please tell me the most important thing. Tian Dao, what the leader of Yen Alliance said is not bad. It's really easy to solve the corpse poison, but another thing is really troublesome. It is an extremely strange insect, colorless and transparent, difficult to distinguish with the naked eye, but when it comes to the human body and enters the blood, it can be activated instantly. By this worm into the body, the monk will lose his mind, just like a madman, killing people and ghosts. And within 7,749 days, the essence will be exhausted by the strange insect and turned into a pile of dead bones. This insect is called corpse devil insect. This insect is very difficult to deal with at ordinary times. Once it encounters the corpse poison, it is even more fierce. What should the Terran do when the Bougie warrior comes to take advantage of this insect? To think about it, the demons not only want to kill the Bougie warriors, but also prepare to fight against the heart. The burning fierce smell speech, the facial expression is extremely ugly, nodded, the evil emperor by show intention is really evil, but this time he is miscalculated, although the idea is good, but don't guard against you already did guard against, also cause him to lose 2 demon zoons, also enough his flesh pain. Yi Xiandi, this time thanks to you, otherwise the Terran will definitely suffer a heavy loss. Yi Tian gently waved his hand, the alliance leader is really ashamed to kill Yi Tian. If it wasn't for the concerted efforts of many colleagues, and the senior friars arrived in time at the critical moment, although they didn't realize the existence of the shield, how could a fragile shield prevent the attack of Bishio and his gang? Yen Lai looks at Yi Tian and laughs. He pats Yi Tian's shoulder, you never take credit, but all the credit is in my heart. It's the critical moment to rob the underworld. I want to go there to have a look. Let the king of Jinbei also stay here to guard the Huajie pool. I don't think Bai Xiu will be in danger again easily. As for these corpses, let Yi Xiandi deal with them on his behalf. With that, Yen Lai disappeared from the original place, followed by the other 4 monks besides Jinbei King. Yes, Yi Tian, you have brought too many surprises to the Terran. The king of Jinbei looked at Yi Tian with a smile and said, I'm flattered. Yi Tianxian said modestly, and then made a gesture. A piece of mana turned into a big net and put some black balls on the field shield into an empty Shumi ring. Because the spheres are scattered in tens of miles, Yi Tian collected a limited number of them each time, but after more than 10 times, all the black spheres containing corpse poison and corpse devil insects were collected by Yi Tian. Yi Xiaoyu can use these? Jinbei Wang's eyebrows slightly coagulated, showing a trace of doubt, and could not help asking. Yi Tian shook his head and laughed, it's not available now, but the corpse devil insect is a rare insect. It's a pity to destroy it like this. If you stay here, maybe you will use it one day. The worst is to give the devil a way to treat him. It's a good way to treat people in their own way. Tu appreciates you very much. Wang Cheng of Jinbei began to laugh. Immediately, however, he said, although Yi Xiaoyu has been in the great wilderness for a short time, he has made a lot of contributions to the human race. However, orcs, demons and underworld also hate you to the bone. I think the White Ape Demon King, the Demon Emperor Bishio and the 9 Yuming Emperor all want to kill you and then quickly, so be more careful in the future. Yi Tian showed a wry smile, the Lord looks too high at Yi Tian. The strong man in the heaven palace wants to kill me. How can I be careful to prevent it? So, I want to stay away for a while. After all, the Earth star is in crisis now, and I don't know how far it has developed. After listening to Yi Tian's words, the king of Jinbei kept silent. At last, he gave a long sigh, but if you leave the wasteland and meet again, you don't know when it will be? But Yi Tian showed a smile. The Lord is serious. Yi Tian can't go yet. There are some things to deal with. These things take a long time. And the mountains and rivers meet. What's more, Dahuan Lingyu is my home. I will come back in the future. Well said, Dahuan Lingyu is your home. No matter where you go, don't go to Dahuan Lingyu. Jinbei Wang nodded slowly, his voice was especially heavy. Yi Tian is not good to say anything more, casually find an excuse, leave the Huajia pool, to hundreds of away, into the underground. Huajia pool is guarded by two great friars, Jinbei King and Lanling Marquis. Except for the White Ape Demon King and the Demon Emperor Bishio, the rest are not afraid. In the Time and Space Tower, Yi Tian sits with his knees crossed, watching the picture in his mind. The pictures are naturally transmitted by the heartworm, and 3 of them are similar in general. In the dark fog, many monks fell from Shumi commandment to the red and black fire of robbing embers. In the fog, the picture was a little blurred, but with the reflection of robbing embers, the general situation could still be discerned. Like a moving camera, Liang Xingkong flies fast far away from the place where the fire was laid out. The picture is constantly extended, but it is always the shadow of countless people, and there is no edge of the fire. Yi Tian can't judge the width and distance of the specific arrangement of Jiajin from the picture. But there is no doubt that this kind of scene is very spectacular, very solemn and stirring. After watching for a while, Yi Tian regained his mind and began to practice with all his mind. It is not necessary for the king of Jinbei to say that he knows how much he has caused to the underworld, the demon, and the ORC. If the other party wants to kill themselves, it is definitely the lightest revenge. It is estimated that once they have the chance, the 3 tribes will eat themselves raw. In the face of this kind of hatred, no one can count on the strongest alien who is equivalent to the palace of the human race. Others may be able to protect themselves once and for a while, but they can never protect themselves forever. Only oneself is the support of oneself forever. Although it's impossible for Yi Tian to reach a certain level with a little bit of mana accumulation, the success or failure is often determined by the details. Naturally, he would not waste the time in front of him. There is no sun and moon in the Tower of Time and Space, and I don't know how long it will be. On this day, Yi Tian wakes up from his cultivation, opens his eyes and grows up. Tachin Luo God and Er confessed a few words, out of the Time and Space Tower, came to the ground. It didn't take long for him to return to the pool. At this time, countless figures from the eastern sky are flying fast here. Although it is still a long distance away, Yi Tian has sensed the strong atmosphere of destruction. It was the Terran friars who came back after setting up the fire. Yi Tian placed several magic powers at a certain place on the bank, and the defense shield covering the Huajia pool suddenly flashes a few times, and the light disappears out of thin air. Then tens of thousands of monks guarding Huajia Qibian retreated for a distance under the command of Lanling Marquis. Although it is not a direct close contact with the embers and will not be infected with the smell of destruction, the Marquis of Lanling is still very cautious to prevent accidents. In a warm cheering, many fast Buzhou warriors soon flew to the front. Without any extra ceremony, they fell into the Huajia pool. Such a large number of monks fell into the Huajia pool together, and the scene was spectacular. Yi Tian carefully observed the reactions of the monks who entered the pool, and found that the bubbles from them were extremely dense, far more than the density of the bubbles emitted by Kunlun Xiu in removing the breath of destruction in the aging pool. The number of bubbles represents the amount of looting breath. The denser the bubbles are, the faster they appear, which means the stronger the ability of looting. After observing for a moment, Yi Tian determined that the effect of Xinhua's robbing pool water has surpassed that of the olds. The main reason is that the water dripping from the stalactites on the mountain carries less chemical elements, which is far less than the effect that Yi Tian can achieve when he reasonably matches the stalactites with the pond stones. In this way, Yi Tian's heart completely relaxed. Yi Xiaoyu, I'm afraid this pool is not enough. A lot of friars fell from the sky and fell into the Huajie pool. The number of people in the pool soared. At a glance, it was full of people. At this time, Yanlai flies from the sky to the ground like a meteor, and comes to the bank of Huajie pool, which is going to be full of people. He says with worry. Master Yan, don't worry. I've been prepared for this. Limited by the geological structure here, the Huajie pool can only be built to this scale. However, the old Huajie pool has been expanded a few days ago. The effective Huajie pool there should be better than here, and it can be used by millions of monks at the same time. The Leaf Day hears speech but not flurriedly say. That's good. It's very kind of you to be so thoughtful. Yanlai listened to the introduction of Yi Tian and said with a loose look. With that, Yanlai whispered a few words to several great friars, arranged the diversion and robbery, and then looked at Yi Tian. Brother, there should be no problem here. There is an urgent thing for you to help. Don't be polite, Alliance Leader Yan. Just say it again. Yi Tian shrugged his shoulders and was still not used to Yanlai's politeness. Well, follow me. Yanlai finished saying, grasped Yi Tian's arm, cast big move skill, disappear from the original place. When he reappeared, Yi Tian came to a spacious stone room, which was not luxurious, but very clean. The white stone walls and the ground were of the same essence. The texture was delicate, like jade. Moreover, Yi Tian noticed that the stone chamber with an area of tens of acres was actually equipped with defense field, which had the function of defending the spirit to investigate. It's safe enough here. You can rest assured that you are here. The important thing that Elder Brother said is to add power to Suwatan array flag. Here are the best 5-element fairy jade collected. Can we see if it's enough? With these words, Yanlai's sleeve waved, and a pile of colorful fairy jade appeared on the smooth ground. At a glance, these colorful fairy jades look like gemstones. They are crystal clear, resplendent, and give off dazzling colors. You don't need to be too close to feel the amazing aura sent out by the fairy jades. This kind of fairy jade is much stronger than any one of Yi Tian's Shumi precepts. It is the most precious and rare of them. Yi Tian roughly calculated that the best Xinyu Yanlai had at least 3,000 or 4,000 pieces, which really surprised Yi Tian. You should know that in the square-inch spiritual realm, at the peak of Qingming Blessed Land, Yi Tian had only 31 pieces of the best fairy jade, and the 5 elements attribute had not been completed. The difference is too great. These Xinyu are far more than Yi Tian's expected number of replenishing the sky-locking array flag power. But for the sake of prudence, he still put out his hand and put a piece of the best fairy jade in his hand. He felt it carefully and finally nodded his head. Alliance Leader Yan, these are enough, and there is still a lot of surplus. Yi Tian said truthfully. Listen to Yi Tian say so, inflamed fierce look a loose way, then haha smile said, enough is good, no matter how much, give Yi Xiandi. Besides, it won't be long before you and I will have a ceremony of worship and announce some other important things. So, it's okay to call me a brother in advance, isn't it? Yi Tian doesn't stick to small things. Since Yanlai said so, he readily agrees. Moreover, he was also a great monk in Yupu realm in his previous life. Even if he made a vow with a monk in Tiangong realm, he didn't really climb much. Little brother, thank you for your kindness. Yi Tian clasped his fist and said modestly. When Yanlai heard that Yi Tian really called his brother, he was very happy. He put his hand on Yi Tian's shoulder and said, brother one day, brother for life. Since you are not polite between brothers, you can say anything here. Elder brother is in charge of everything for you. Of course, there's no need to talk about how to send you back to Earth Star. I'm duty bound to do that. I'll try my best to do it. What else do you need to add power to the array flag? Yi Tianlu pondered, and finally said, if you supplement the array flag power, you don't need anything. I have some fragmentary things here. However, I need some materials. Can I find them here? If you need something, I will find it for you as long as there is one in the spiritual realm. Here Yi naivete have need, inflamed fierce came to interest. Yi Tian took out an empty white jade slip and pasted it on his forehead. After a while, he recorded all the materials he needed in it, and then gave it to Yanlai. Yanlai takes it in his hand and doesn't need to stick it to his forehead. He can also find out what's inside with his powerful power of mind. Although most of the materials Yi Tian needs are extremely precious materials, Yanlai doesn't change his expression after reading it. Then he smiles to Yi Tian, brother, go to make preparations first, maybe he will come back soon. With that, people have disappeared from the original place. Yi Tian looked at the place where Yanlai disappeared. He was stunned for a moment. Then he shook his head and began to close his eyes and calculate silently. About an hour later, when Yi Tian added all the processes of the sky-locking array flag power, he deduced it several times in his mind. After he was sure, Yanlai just came back. Whoosh! As soon as the body shape just appeared, Yanlai bent his fingers and shot a light at Yi Tian. Yi Tianxin read a move, take cloud hand suddenly a fishing, the light fishing in the hand, is a Shumi ring. Haha, my dear brother, your 5 elements Taoism is so pure. It's rare in the whole field of wilderness. In Shumi precepts, all the materials you need have been prepared. You can check it. Don't delay a big event because you don't have the same name or quality as you want. Yanlai is full to admire to see a leaf day one I say. Even if Yanlai doesn't say it, Yi Tian will naturally have a good inspection, and it's not a general inspection. He takes out all the materials in Sumi Jia and puts them on the ground, and checks them carefully as well. Until at last, Yi Tiankai nodded his head with satisfaction and said to Yanlai, these are all okay. My brother-in-law has worked hard. Haha, between brothers, there is no need to talk about two families. This time, I want to add power to Suwatan array flag. I want some old people in the general hall of the field to learn from it. Once my younger brother doesn't come back for a long time, Suwatan array flag will run out of power again, and it won't become a waste. Yanlai waved his hand and stopped Yi Tian's thanks, so he asked. Alright, but before adding power to the array flag, I want to refine an imitation of the Skylock array flag for self-defense. Yi Tian naturally doesn't matter, immediately full of promise way. Imitation? Are you still proficient in Dao? Then let the people from the General Hall of Qi Dao come to learn. Yanlai said unexpectedly that he didn't know what the final purpose of the materials Yi Tian had asked him to raise before, and he didn't have the idea to inquire. Haha, brother, don't do it. I'm just imitating it at will. I don't know if I can make it. I don't want to make my younger brother lose face. Yi Tian quickly waved his hand to stop the burning. But Yanlai said with indifference, it doesn't matter. Let them come and have a look. I promise I won't disturb you. Even if my brother can't copy it, at least those old guys can gain some experience of failure, can't they? Yanlai words all say this up, Leaf Day poor not good to refuse again, have to reluctantly agree to come down. Soon, Yanlai left the stone room and came back with 6 high-level old monsters. Master Situ Shang of Qi Dao General Hall. Qi Dao General Hall, Vice Hall Master Ren Ziyuan. Qi Dao General Hall, Vice Hall, named Songgang. Ran Zishan, the master of the General Hall, is very familiar with him. These two are Zhenze and Luochine, the deputy chief of the hall. Yanlai introduces Yi Tian one by one. Yi Tian holds his fist and greets with the others. Among them, Situ Shang and Ran Zishan are the great friars of Yupu realm, and in Ziyuan and Song Danza are the cultivation of Huashan realm. But they didn't have any arrogant attitude because their realm was much higher than that of Yi Tian. Yi Tian was very polite and seemed to treat them with the same level of etiquette. Because he had known Yi Tian for a long time, Ran Zishan talked with him more. Brother, I'll leave it to you. I'm waiting for your good news. I'll go to Huajiechi to have a look. Yanlai didn't stay here too much. He hurriedly confessed and left the stone room. Yi Tian sat on the stone room futon with his knees crossed. He carefully deduced all the details of refining the array flag in his mind for several times. He didn't open his eyes until he was ready. With a gesture, pick out a silk from the material and suspend it in front of you. Use a little magic to straighten it without any sag. Then the second one was stirred up. After the same stretch, the mana was controlled accurately, and the two silks shuttled automatically, weaving a strange rune. At a certain moment, when the weaving stops, Tian pulls out a small piece of black Xianlong gold from the ground and refines it with the original spirit fire. Until the Xianlong gold turns into liquid, Tian immediately exerts metal Taoist art, and in a twinkling of an eye, carves a simple and mysterious metal rune. As soon as the rune pattern was formed, it suddenly flashed a few times and gave off a dark light. Then it drew a radiant and flew to the black light of the rune pattern woven by the sky silk. When the two sides met each other, the sky silk went back and forth in a strange way, weaving the rune pattern made of Xianlong gold in it. The speed of day silk is extremely fast, like lightning dancing, people are dazzled. Tian's side moves quickly. The three friars, Sita Shan, and Ziyuan and Song Gang, in the general hall of Qidao, have moved their eyes away from Runwan and Tian's silk. They all look at each other in amazement. On the other hand, Ran Zishan of the general hall of the field also did the same. If the layout field is a single field category, then the field controlled by array flag is related to the range of channel. Refining array flag is actually a comprehensive application of field and instrument. If you master only one of them, you can't refine advanced array flag. Both Qidao General Hall and Shanyu General Hall have spent countless time studying the 36 banners of Suatan formation, and even the two general halls have studied them together. However, it failed to make any progress after all, and even could not find out how to add power to the array flag. Finally, they were lucky to see Tian refining array flag, but with such accurate and fast refining techniques, they felt that no matter how they learned this time, it was futile. This idea just came into being, but then, Tian's technique almost made them more desperate. Tian's action is so fast that it almost turns into a virtual shadow of Tao and Tao. Various 5 shape runes are refined one after another, which are integrated into the array flag woven by silk in the cold region. The silk has gradually changed from 2 to 3, 4, and 5. The transparent and tenacious Tian silk seems to have given birth to spirituality, weaving one rune after another, and then fusing with the runes of various properties. The array flag grows rapidly in continuous weaving and melting. Wood attribute rune, water attribute rune, soil attribute, symbol pattern, fire attribute rune. No matter what kind of attribute, the rune pattern seems to be easy to grasp in Tian's hand. If the perception of various attributes had not reached the peak, it would not have reached such a level at all. At the beginning, the 6 people in Qidao Hall and Shanyu Hall wanted to learn some methods of refining array flags, but later they found that even if Tian taught them hand in hand, they could not master them in a period of time. The depth of the realm does not mean the ability to perceive the intangible attributes. It's like a man can kill a cow with one blow, but it's not necessary for him to solve the problem skillfully, but a woman who takes this as her career can do it easily. Tian, a low-level monk with only the accomplishments of Longmen realm, has brought too many surprises to all people before that. However, when they think they already know Tian, they suddenly find that their so-called understanding is just the tip of the iceberg. Just when they thought they had correctly estimated Tian, they found that they underestimated this mysterious young man. Later, in astonishment, these monks gave up the idea of learning to refine the array flag, because their eyesight could not keep up with Tian's movements. Before they could see what was going on, a complete array flag had been refined. You've seen it clearly just now. At this time, Tian suddenly turned the flag to one side and went to a piece of golden material. The next is to use purple gold wire to connect all the runes, and the purple gold wire is refined with this kind of purple gold. The purple gold wire must be extremely uniform, otherwise after the rune pattern is excited, the abnormal field will appear, leading to the collapse of the whole array flag. With that, the fist-sized purple gold in his hand had been suspended on the original spirit fire and constantly began to refine. The 6 monks of Qidao General Hall and Fudao General Hall looked at each other, then nodded blankly. They were embarrassed to admit that they didn't see clearly, and they didn't have the cheek to lie, but their expressions had betrayed everything. After a while, the originally extremely hard purple gold gradually softened under the heat of the original spirit fire, and finally approached the liquid state. At a certain moment, Tian took out a small hollow tube made of unknown material and gently inserted it into the softened purple gold. Then a magic force was injected from the tube mouth, and then a piece of purple gold wire with extremely uniform thickness flew out of the tube. Just at the moment when the purple gold wire flew out, Tian opened his mouth and spat out a very cold air on the soft purple gold wire. The purple gold wire solidified instantly and turned into a solid purple gold. In this way, Tian draws and solidifies at the same time. After a short time, the whole piece of purple gold is turned into a plate of uniform thickness, crystal clear and shining purple gold under his control. The 6 friars of Qidao General Hall and Shangyu General Hall were shocked to see each other. Not to mention the array flag, it was the purple gold silk. I'm afraid it would never be so easy for them to refine to such an even level. What surprised them more, however, was the next step. Tian took down a piece of purple gold silk, like a needle and thread, and zigzagged across the flag woven by the silk of the cold region, one after another through the rune pattern that had been refined before. While connecting, he introduced, there are 2 kinds of rune patterns on the flag surface, one is the exposed rune pattern, the other is the invisible rune pattern, which is invisible to the naked eye. The purple gold wire needs to go through the connection in 2 kinds of rune patterns in turn, and the position of the rune pattern must not be wrong at all. When refining the rune pattern, the connection hole has been reserved, so it should go through the reserved hole completely, and the rune pattern cannot be damaged at all. Moreover, the order of the connecting runes must not be disordered. If there is no mistake, there are 72 exposed runes and 36 hidden runes in the array flag, a total of 108 runes, which must be connected completely and accurately. At the back, the people of Qidao General Hall and Shangyu General Hall can't hear what Tian is saying. If Tian said it before, they can still try it, but now they are completely dumbfounded. Invisible rune? What about the invisible rune? What you can't see still needs to be connected. Besides Tian, who else can do it? Who else can have a perspective eye, be proficient in field, be proficient in refining tools, and reach the peak of the 5 elements Taoism? Otherwise, how can this set of lock sky array be called the ancient strange array? It's not so hard to refine. It's not human. Thinking of this, the people of Qidao General Hall and Shangyu General Hall can't help looking at Tian one after another. Looking at Tian's attentive manipulation of the rune pattern on the array flag with purple gold wire, he is calm and steady. Look at his young face. At this time, they really realized that Tian was refining this ancient strange array? Not human? But isn't he working on it? Tian is so young, but he has reached the late cultivation of Longmen realm. This is absolutely unprecedented in the great wilderness spiritual realm. He entered the Demon King Mountain to capture the young son of the White Ape Demon King. He was possessed of the treasure house of the Golden City to obtain the resources of the demon family. With his own strength, he led the Terran friars to fight back against the underworld and killed countless enemies. It is such a young man with amazing talent in cultivation, but he has such a deep understanding in the attainments of 5 elements Taoism. And can understand the elixir to relieve the weak period of Wajieshui, but also self-made Wajieshui. This is not to say, in the realm of Dan Dao, no one in the great wilderness spiritual realm can surpass it. All the gifted friars in the great wilderness spiritual realm were eclipsed. It was such a young man that the Lord of Washenjing begged for his daughter, and the friars of Jindanjing rushed to worship. The great friars of Yupujing vied to make friends with each other. Even Yen Lai, the leader of the heavenly palace, ignored the huge age gap and wanted to marry him. What kind of person is this? The 2 great monks who are the master of the General Hall of Qidao and the master of the General Hall of the Field, are very good at Qidao and Dan Dao. Can anyone surpass Tian in the great wilderness? The answer does not need to think about, but it is such a person in front of us. All of a sudden, the monks realized how honored they were. In ancient times, it is impossible to find out who made the strange array. But at this moment, they will witness the whole process of refining a new ancient strange array. How lucky! Just as everyone was thinking, Tian had manipulated the purple gold wire to connect all the runes. Then he took out several materials, melted them one by one, mixed them together, and refined a flag handle only 2 feet long, on which he engraved layers of runes. Later, Tian sacrificed the original spirit fire again, refining the flag face and the handle together until there was no trace of adhesion. It was as if it was made in heaven, and it was originally one. After everything was finished, Tian looked at it carefully several times and compared it with one of the flags of the Skylock array. Then he nodded his head with satisfaction. The main array flag of Suatian array has been refined. Now we will continue to refine the auxiliary array flag. Put the refined array flag aside, Tian said. 36 array flags occupy 36 positions in Tiangang respectively, and the 36 positions echo each other to form a strong field of trapped array. Each array flag is slightly different, but on the whole, there is little difference. The difference is only in the details. Tian successfully refined the main array flag, and the next refining was more handy. So tireless refining, I do not know how long, he has always concentrated on the best. The friars of the General Hall of Field and the General Hall of Qi Dao were always watching carefully. In the end, they summed up and watched Tian refine the array flag. The biggest harvest was that they finally confirmed that they could not refine this kind of ancient strange array flag with their ability. At a certain moment, Tian put down the array flag which had just fused the flag face and the flag handle, and let out a long breath. I don't know how long it took to refine the last side of the 36 array flag. After spending so much mana, divine thought, and original spirit fire for such a long time, Tian feels a little tired and can't help meditating and recovering his mana. Even so, Tian's powerful mana also shocked the monks present. If he is not sure that he is a monk in the later period of Longmen realm, I'm afraid that from the point of view of refining 36 array flags in one fell swoop, a monk without the highest cultivation in Jindan realm can never accomplish it. What a pervert! This kind of evaluation came out of everyone's mind. Just in the process of waiting silently, an hour later, Tian suddenly opens his eyes are full of introverted essence, and his breath has returned to the peak. Seeing this, the monks could not help looking at each other. In such a short period of time, all the consumed mana was restored. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed it. At this time, Tian pondered a little and said, "Next, I will arrange a field, called Guanling Field. Through this field, we can add power to 36 sky-locked array flags. You must be optimistic. Maybe you can use it in the future." Hearing the speech, everyone was shocked and nodded to watch carefully. Tian no longer paid much attention to them. He picked up the main array flag in his hand and threw it at random. The handle of the flag was inserted into the stone ground for 3 minutes, and then he threw the other 35 array flags one after another, all of which were inserted into the ground. The 36 banners must be placed in the 36 positions of Tiangang, each in its own position, so that the power can be supplemented. The position of each flag must be kept in mind. While throwing the array flag, Tian said. After the 36 banners were laid, Tian brought a piece of metal jade. When he pressed it at a certain position on the ground, it was as if it was pressed into the earth and easily pressed into the stone ground. Then, the best fairy jade with various attributes was pressed into the ground one by Tian at different positions. Tian didn't stop until he pressed 2,592. Pointing to the disorderly-looking top-quality xianyu, he explained in detail, every 72 pieces of xianyu are made into a rune pattern, which corresponds to one array flag. A total of 36 single rune patterns are formed, which corresponds to 36 array flags. These 108 pieces of spirit stones form a composite field, which is composed of 24 coincidence fields, representing 24 stars and sky. All 2,592 pieces of top-quality fairy jade together form a large field. The function of this field is to communicate the power of heaven and earth. Moreover, the properties of the best celestial jade that make up these fields must not be wrong, otherwise the fields may collapse. However, these are not enough. We need to carve some runes to make each field work coordinately, which can not only play a role alone, but also be an organic whole. As Tian said this, he took out a black iron gun and carved it in the space of many fairy jade on the ground. After a long time, a lot of simple and mysterious runes appeared on the ground, which seemed to be in disorder, but the monks with profound field attainments found the mystery. All the people were so intoxicated that they stayed for a while. Just from the rune of this spiritual field, they have different understandings, but the amount of understandings is not exactly the same. Next, I'm going to start the spirit pouring field to add power to the 36-bar array flag. Please don't interfere with the operation of the field. At this time, Tian told me. The 6 monks knew that they had a great responsibility. Hearing this, they stepped back for a long time, far away from the spiritual field. Tian finally checks all the xianyu in the rune patterns, and finally a mana hits one of the rune patterns. A golden light immediately lights up on the rune pattern, and then spreads out quickly along the lines depicted by Tian. The golden light spreads everywhere quickly. Many spirit stones meet the golden light and light up different colors one after another until all the immortals are passed through by the golden light. The whole field suddenly gives out a buzzing sound, and all the best immortals start to twinkle. Then a whirling force slowly formed, and an invisible force seemed to connect the sky and the earth. During the whirling, the best fairy jade sent out amazing aura, and gradually formed 36 visible aura whirlpools. Each vortex is linked with a flag. 36 whirlpools, 36 flags. Whirlpool with extremely terrible power quickly poured into the array flag. The 36 array flags were shining with different colors. This is the spiritual field? Looking at the scene in front of them, the monks felt like they were in a dream. When they saw that Tian had set up such a complex field, they were shocked enough. However, the field started on the spot, many whirlpools were generated, and the terrible power poured into the array flag. At this moment, all Tian's descriptions were complete, and they felt what was the real shock. Many top-quality fairy jade shine, the field lines depicted by Tian shine, and even the 36 sky-locked array flags shine at the same time. It seems that in the twinkling light, the endless power of heaven and earth is also wrapped in the whirlpool and poured into the array flag. If we say that the array flag, which had lost all its power, is like a dead thing, but with the continuous infusion of power, the array flag is gradually recovering its vitality. Bit by bit, the field is always running steadily, and the 36 vortices are always rotating to connect with the array flag, pouring the power mixed with the power of heaven and earth into the array flag. I don't know how long after that, the 36 sides array that received the spirit almost glowed at the same time, giving off a dazzling strong light. At this moment, Tian's gesture suddenly moved, and the 36-bar array flag flew out of the field and landed beside Tian. Almost at the same time, Tian's gesture moved again. His newly refined 36-bar array flag was inserted into the old sky of the original array flag. 36 whirlpools, which had begun to slow down due to the loss of the spirit pouring target, were immediately connected with the 36 array flags. The spirit pouring is still going on. It's just a change of object. The monks of Qidao Hall and Qingyu Hall were shocked to see each other, but Tian's technique of instantly reset the 36 banners at the same time was not so accurate even though they were all great monks of Huashan and Yupu realms. This technique alone, without 100 years of practice, is absolutely difficult to achieve. Tian is only 20 years old now. Even if he hasn't done anything in the past 20 years, he can't achieve this level just by practicing this technique. This is not genius and metamorphosis can describe. Tian this son is absolutely a demon general existence. Moreover, from the scene in front of us, there are 30 whirlpools, 36 array flags, the best fairy jade and the field lines of rune patterns. The whirlpool also contains the power of heaven and earth. All of this is as like as 2 peas of the 36 bar lock of the ancient times. Only from this point of view, the sky-locking array flag made by Tian is really successful. But Tian said that this set of imitations can have some power of ancient strange array, but people can't guess in their hearts. Seeing that Tian is paying close attention to the situation of the array flag in the field at this time, it's hard for everyone to ask. It's just that as time goes on, we can't help beating drums in our hearts. The 36 banners spirit pouring time has exceeded the previous 36 banners spirit pouring time, but the vortex still doesn't mean to stop. Does the new refined array flag need more energy than the subsequent spirit-infused array flag? All of them thought. Can it be that the array flag refined by Tian is more powerful than the original ancient strange array? It's just a flash of thought. How is that possible? The array flag refined by Tian is an imitation. How can it surpass the real ancient array flag? The spirit pouring is still going on, and it has gone beyond the previous set of array flags. For a long time, it still doesn't mean to stop. The crowd looked at the array flag, which was still flashing with all kinds of lights. They could not help muttering in their hearts. This kind of time has gone beyond their guess, especially the comparison of the 2 sets of array flag power perfusion. Up to now, it is obvious that Tian's new array flag has more power than the old one. However, they still lack the most direct basis for the specific reasons or for judging which of the 2 array flags is better. As time goes on, they pay more and more attention to the array flag refined by Tian. At this time, Tian was also extremely concerned about the spirit irrigation of this set of array flags. The infusion power of such time was beyond his expectation. There is no doubt. Of course, the longer the power infusion time is, the more power stored in the array flag will be when the power infusion intensity remains unchanged. This does not mean that this set of array flags must be stronger than the previous one, but it must mean that it will last longer than the original one. It seems that this is the right bet. Gradually, a smile appeared on Tian's lips. Because when he was refining the main array flag, he found that a certain rune pattern recorded in ancient books was slightly different from that on the original array flag. After weighing it, Tian chose to refine it according to the ancient books. So far, because of this small difference, the array flag can absorb many more powers. For Tian, this is a surprise. All of a sudden, the array flag that everyone was waiting for suddenly glowed, and the scene of stopping absorbing power did not come. On the contrary, Tian's field of pouring spirit was exhausted at a certain moment because of the exhaustion of the spirit in the best fairy jade. Suddenly, a pop sound was made, and the best fairy jade turned gray, and the vortex slowly dissipated. It's a pity that I can't fill it with power. A look of disappointment appeared on Tian's face. Although there were more than 600 pieces of the best fairy jade left, it was obvious that he could not continue to arrange the spirit pouring array. Unless these celestial jades are cut again and arranged reasonably according to their own attributes, a small spirit pouring array can be set up. But Tian estimates that even if the array flag can absorb some power, it won't have much surplus. Tian is reluctant to waste so many precious 5-element jade, which may be of greater use to him in the future. At this time, although Tian had a little regret, he still motioned to receive the 36 array flags. After a careful reaction, the amazing power of the array flag carefully put the array flag away this time. I don't know if you have ever seen it clearly. Then Tian looked up at the 6 monks. Everyone is a burst of bitter smile, heart secret way, see clearly, but did not learn From their expressions, Tian naturally guessed the result, so he pointed to the finished field in front of him and said, "Protect this field." Although the best fairy jade has exhausted its aura, you can still identify the attributes of the fairy jade from the embers. If you need to, you can insert the fairy jade into the old hole according to the attributes, and then activate this array. There should be no mistake in the position of the array flag. Although they didn't fully understand the layout of the field, many monks were familiar with the location of the 36 array flags. Even if Tian doesn't say that, they will also keep this field well for further study in the future. However, they are full of curiosity that Tian can arrange such a complex spiritual field. Ran Zishan, the master of the general hall of the field, is more familiar with Tian. He just wanted to ask something, but suddenly he made a gesture and took out a message from his arms. Inside came the voice of birding and rushing. The 9 Yuming Emperor and Bai Xiu join hands to break into the wilderness of the robbery pool. Come to support quickly. With the sound finished, the messenger was reduced to ashes. Ran Zishan and the monks on the scene could not help but change their faces. The 9 Yuming Emperor and the evil Emperor Bishio were both equivalent to the cultivation of the heavenly palace. When they joined hands, the pressure of the alliance leader could be imagined. At ordinary times, no matter how tense the situation is, Yenlai won't ask for help from the people in the 4 main halls, because the monks in the 4 main halls are rare treasures. If 1 or 2 ordinary monks fall, Yenlai is still in the range of bearing. However, if the great friars of the 4 main halls fall, it is likely to mean that the overall level of Dan Dao, Shi Dao, Fu Dao, and field will show a cliff-like decline. From the perspective of the grand plan, this is definitely not what the human race can bear. But now, for the first time, Yenlai asked for help from the people in the 4 main halls, which was enough to show that the situation there had reached an extremely critical moment. Yi Xiaoyu, the alliance leader, certainly didn't expect that the Lock Sky array flag had been successfully infused, otherwise he would let me take the array flag. You see. Ran Zishan looked at the array flag in a hurry and said. At the end of the story, Tian knew what he meant and said, "Master Ran, take it. It's important to retreat." In fact, even if Ran Zishan didn't ask himself and took it and left, Tian would not say anything. At least he asked himself, which was his respect. There is nothing more important now than to resist the joint attack of the Ninth Nether Emperor and the evil Emperor Bishio. With a gesture, Ran Zishan held the array flag in his hand and looked at Yi Tian again. Yi Xiaoyu is hiding here. It's absolutely safe here. Lord Ran, the underworld and the demons are not necessarily Jojo and Bishio. I'm afraid there are other strong men. I have a set of array flags here, but I have never used them. I don't know the specific situation. If one set is not enough, this one may work. So, take Yi Tian and go there together. If there is any problem in the process of using it, my grandfather can deal with it at any time. When the enemy is at hand, it's more or less a help. Yi Tian grows up and says quickly. Well, if there is any danger, I will spare my life to protect you. After a little hesitation, Ran Zishan said so, and then he took Yi Tian out of the stone chamber and came to the ground. When Yi Tian just looked around, Ran Zishan had already used his great move and disappeared from the original place. Situ Shang, the leader of the main hall of Qi Dao, also carried out his great move and rushed to the wilderness. However, the other 4 monks in the spirit realm drove their own escape light and flew to the east like a meteor. After a slight dizziness, Yi Tian's figure stabilized and emerged from the sky. At this time, a tall demon suddenly appeared in front, and a huge mace had been smashed fiercely. Ran Zishan snorted coldly, and a silver spear appeared in his hand, which broke out a breath of terror and hit the wolf toothstick. But Yi Tian didn't hesitate at all, and his figure disappeared from the original place in a flash. The scene presented in front of us is very chaotic. There are not many allied forces of the demons and the underworld. It seems that there should be less than 200 people. But in addition to the 9 Yuming Emperor and the Devil Emperor Bishio, the rest are mostly the existence of the level of the underworld and the devil, and some of the underworld and the devil are slightly weaker. Yi Tian should also be the peak of Hades or demons, or even half-step into the realm of Hades or demons. On the other hand, the Terran side is obviously in a weak position. Naturally, Yen Lai is the only great monk in heaven. He is fighting against Jojo and Bishio at the same time. He is fighting against 2 strong men, one against the other. Obviously, he is struggling to support them. Yi Tian, the great monk of Yupu realm of the human race, unexpectedly saw more than 50 people, as well as hundreds of monks of Huashan realm. The deficiency of the high realm friars can only be made up by the low realm friars. Although they have the advantage of a large number of people, from the perspective of heaven, the human race is absolutely inferior. In the alliance of the underworld and the demon, the number of the underworld and the demon is much higher than that of the Terran friars. Some powerful friars in Yupujing fight against 3 or 4 enemies at the same time, but some Yupujing can only deal with one enemy because of their weak strength. For Yi Tian, the difference of 1.5 realms is not a problem, but for ordinary monks, realms represent absolute strength. There is a big difference in the strength between Huashanjing and Yupu. Although there are a large number of Renzu Huashanjing monks, they are in a precarious situation. Dozens of monks have been injured, and even the number of fallen monks has reached 10. At the back of the battlefield, dozens of miles away, is Yi Tian's newly built Huajia pool. There are many people there. Countless monks are guarding the newly built Huajia pool. The water in the pool is full of warriors who have reached the critical moment. The Lord of General Hall ran, "Don't fall in love with fighting." He must use the flag of Sky Array to trap Jojo and Bishio, at least one of them. Looking at the chaos on the battlefield, Ran Zishan would fight with the devil as soon as he came up. Yi Tian reminded him in time. Hearing Yi Tian's voice, Ran Zishan immediately locked his position in the direction of Yi Tian's voice. He quickly sent a voice back and said, "To trap the Demon Emperor Bishio and the 9 Demon Emperor, you need at least 36 great friars in Yupu realm. Now all the great friars in Yupu realm are fighting, and they can't get their origins." Yi Tian glanced at the battlefield and proposed, "You can control the array flag by using the monks of the divine realm. First, you can trap the alliance forces of Ming Zun and Demon Zun realm, so that the friars of Yupu realm can free up their hands. Then you can control the array flag by using the great friars of Yupu realm to trap the 9 Yuming Emperor and the Demon Emperor Bishio. Don't forget, I still have a set of array flags here." When Ran Zishan heard the words, he immediately understood what Yi Tian meant. Suddenly, the silver spear in his hand was full of silver. He pushed back the demon master opposite him and continued to say, "The monk of Washington doesn't know the position of the array, so it's difficult to quickly activate the lock array. Suatan array flag is an ancient strange array handed down by the human race. It can only be used when the human race is in great crisis. Therefore, we know that the friars who control the array flag are all great friars in Yupu realm, and the friars in Washington realm have no chance to contact the Suatan array flag. Especially in Tiangang 36 formation, if you don't cooperate well, you can't stimulate the defense field at all. It's not a problem. Master Ran, you quickly get rid of your opponent and distribute the array flag to the monks of Washington. You can control the main array flag. As for how to stand and how to arrange the array, you and I will tell the monks that the speed must be fast. At this time, the war situation is even more critical. 2 monks in the spirit realm are injured again. The pressure on the Terran monks is even greater. Yi Tian quickly urges. Ran Zishan nodded, his mana burst out suddenly, and he took a completely reckless attack. A silver gun only attacked but not defended, and he was defeated by both moves. On the other side, the devil's face changed greatly, and he quickly opened a distance. At this time, Sita Shang, who had just come to join the battle group, put aside his opponent and headed down Ran Zishan. Ran Zishan took advantage of this rare opportunity to get out. With him, there were another 35 monks who had received the message from Ran Zishan. Looking at the arrival of all the people, Ran Zishan made a continuous gesture. 35 sky-locked array flags flashed to the hands of the monks. Joyo, they want to lock the sky array. In the distance, Bishio, the demon emperor, who was besieging the burning fire with Juyuming emperor, quickly gave a big drink when he saw this scene. The 9th Yuming emperor glanced at the location of Ran Zishan and others, and Jie gave a strange smile. By Xiao, this is a bluff. If you believe it, you will be deceived. A few days ago, the power of the Skylock array flag was exhausted. They were just putting on airs. Don't worry about that side. Hold on to the burning old monster first. We must make the Terran pay a heavy price today. The evil emperor by Xiao hears the speech and nods slightly. His body is filled with black air. The big stick in his hand sends out extremely terrifying power and keeps smashing at Yen Lai. Because some time ago, I had an inexplicable fight with the White Ape Demon King, and suffered some injuries, which had a certain impact on the strength. The 9 Yuming Emperor was also affected by the war a few days ago. The loss of mana was too large, and they had not completely recovered. Although they had the upper hand together, it was impossible to kill Yen Lai. Their purpose is to hold back the fierce, so as to attack the great friars of the Terran with the number of strong people, and to hit the top power of the Terran. As a result, it seems that the 3 men here are fighting earth-shaking, but from the perspective of the situation, they are far less dangerous than the monks in Yupu and Huashan realms. No, Joyo, you see, they have launched the Skylock array and trapped the people of the underworld and the demons in it. A few more rounds later, Bishop of the Devil spoke again. Don't worry, Bishio. Can I be wrong? On that day, I broke the Skylock array when its power was about to run out, just because its power was not enough to resist my attack. It's not that all the powers are exhausted and broken by themselves. There should be some powers left in it. It's just a bluff. Will confuse us with the few powers left. Don't worry about that. We'll be responsible for pestering the old Yen monster. Maybe our hands can break out in a few minutes. Joyo is still Jie. Jie smiles a few times and says very firmly. He doesn't think much of the confusion of Bai Xiao. Yen Lai ignores the 2 people in front of him. He suppresses the excitement in his heart. He still struggles with each other in one move. Before that, Ran Zishan had already told Yen Lai about the fact that the array flag had successfully added power, and that Yi Tianxin had refined a new set of array flags, and told him his next plan. In this way, Yen Lai's heart was steadfast, and another serious crisis of the Terran would be relieved immediately. So at this time, he was not in a hurry to deal with the Ming Emperor and the Devil Emperor, and he began to take the initiative to drag the 2 old ghosts in the air. But on the surface, he still has to do something. His offensive is still very domineering. He seems to be desperate. At this time, I don't know how far away from a mountain, the White Ape Demon King is standing on the top of the mountain, facing the direction of the battlefield, with a cold face. Yi Tian. If it wasn't for you, how could I swear blood, and how could I do nothing to watch on the wall here? Unfortunately, it's a great opportunity. If the orcs join in, how much benefit will it bring to the orcs? Yi Tian. I won't let you go. The orcs can't launch a large-scale attack on the Terran, but it's not against the blood oath if they make a little conflict and kill you. The White Ape Demon King's face changed and murmured to himself. I hope you can survive under the attack of the underworld and the demons, otherwise I must let you feel my means well. The White Ape Demon King is far away from the battlefield. Yi Tian naturally doesn't know that the old ape is covering the battlefield with his mind and observing the war. At this time, he and Ran Zishan jointly commanded many friars to complete the encirclement of 1,560 strong members of the underworld and the demon clan. Because the battlefield is too scattered, there are 30 or 40 underworld and demon people who can't circle into the locked sky array field, but a large number of human friars are able to get away at this time. Let the enemy who is trapped in the locked sky array field ignore, and directly surround and kill those 30 or 40 opponents. However, Jinbei King, Ningnan King, Lanling Marquis and other great friars did not take part in the encirclement. Instead, they gathered one after another to form a circle. The number of them was exactly 36. There was a flash of light somewhere in the circle, and 36 shadows came to the hands of 36 great monks in a flash. Then they all scattered around, looking as if they were on guard against the escape of those dark and evil practitioners trapped in the sky array field. It was Yi Tian, who was invisible, who sent out the array flag. Everything was done quickly and stealthily, and it looked perfect. The 30 or 40 alliance forces of the underworld and the devil, who were not trapped, were besieged by a far larger number of Terran friars, and soon suffered heavy losses. Except for a dozen of the underworld god and the devil god who used the big move technique to escape from the battlefield, the rest of the underworld god and the devil god were all killed on the spot. Jodo Hades and Bai Xiu, who are fighting with Yen Lai, see this. They want to get rid of Yen Lai and go to the rescue, but they are delayed by Yen Lia's 200 injuries. Just in this 3 or 4 breath time, the battle over there is ended, the dead are dead, the fleeing are fleeing, this piece of heaven and earth suddenly returns to calm. Seeing that the action was blocked and his own side suffered heavy losses, Bai Xiu and 9 Yuming Emperor were very fierce. They jointly launched a fierce attack on Yen Lai, and the fight instantly escalated. It was a life and death posture. Jodo, you don't mean that the power of the locked sky array field is about to run out? How can the people inside attack for so long, and the field is still so powerful? Between the fights, Bishou's anger burst out and asked aloud. The 9th Yuming Emperor is also very angry now. He said in a bad voice, Bai Xiu, I just tell you what I know. You know, the Terran is too cunning. Maybe there's something we don't know. The dead people look for the strong one of the demon clan and the strong one of the underworld clan. Otherwise, you can entangle the old Yen monster alone, and the emperor will kill and avenge. By the way, you can solve those array monks. No matter how powerful the array flag is, will you kill them soon? It's better for you to pester the old Yen monster. I'll deal with the Terran. Later, we'll work together to deal with the old Yen monster. The Devil Emperor said that, without waiting for Joyo to reply, he left the battle group with a move and killed him in the direction of Suatian formation. Don't go. Yen Lai's face was angry, and he was drinking to intercept. However, the 9 Yuming Emperor was spewing a green fire, which blocked Yen Lai's way. As soon as Bishou, the Demon Emperor, was outside the field shield of the locked sky array, the 36 monks who had been ready for a long time suddenly changed their positions and surrounded Bishou in the middle, just as each monk occupied one of the 36 monks in Tiangang. Almost at the same time, a flag appeared in the hands of the 36 great monks. It was the main flag held by the king of Jinbei. Almost as soon as the flag was released, the mana suddenly lost to the flag handle. With a buzzing sound, a transparent shield appeared out of thin air and trapped Bai Xiu in it. With a cry of surprise, Bishou smashed the big stick into the shield with a terrible momentum. Although his attack momentum was fierce, the big stick smashed on the shield just made the shield swing slightly, and then it was back as before. The blow was obviously futile. In his heart, Bai Xiu was surprised and angry. He launched a series of attacks on the shield, trying to break the shield quickly to get out of the trap. Such a continuous attack sent out a great formation, and he was crazy. High above the sky, the Nine Yuming King, who intercepts the burning fire, sees Bai Xiu's sudden change and is trapped in it by a field similar to the Skylock Array, and his face changes greatly. Old Flame Monster, is this field also the field of Lock Sky Array? Nine Yuming Emperor floated back and asked as he retreated. Boom! With the light of the sword, Yan Lai's voice also followed, Joyo old ghost, are you blind? Who told you that Terran has only one set of Sky Array flag? Now I can tell you that the Terran has two sets of array flags to lock the Sky Array. Haha, unexpected, surprise or not? Are you surprised? With these words, Yan Lai glanced at the Terran friars intentionally or unintentionally. After that, there were 36 friars flying to Yan Lai. Jodio noticed that the number of these friars was just the number of those who arranged the Skylock Array. Among them, there were 6 great friars in Yupu realm, and the rest were monks in Huashan realm. Although these hands were empty, the Nine Yuming Emperor's face was still suspicious. He continued to drift back and refused to let the monks close to him. Just now, the same was true of the evil Emperor Bishio, who accidentally locked the Sky Array of the Terran and was hard to escape. The Terrans are very cunning. Although Yan Lai says there are 2 sets of Sky Array flags, the Terrans and the underworld are fighting against each other. How can Yan Lai tell the truth? With this in mind, the Nine Yuming Emperor felt that his guess was right. Now for his own safety, he didn't worry about anything else anymore. His figure flashed, and he had already used the big move skill, and disappeared from the original place. Yan Lai did a play again, and took a look at the 36 friars. The 36 friars looked at the distance according to the position of the 36 of Tian Gang. After nothing, they kept their original position in the sky. In a high sky far away, the 9th Yuming Emperor sensed this situation and was more certain. He never stopped here. He didn't care that the strong of the underworld were trapped in the Skylock Array and went straight back to the underworld. Even without scruples about the alliance with the demons, even Bishio, who was trapped in the shield and whose life and death were uncertain, ignored it. Yan Lai releases his divine thoughts. After investigating, he determines that Joyo has left the scope of divine thoughts, and then comes to the shield of the underworld and the demons. There are more than 100 strong people of 2 races fighting hard to attack the field shield. Unfortunately, the Skylock Array is a strange array in ancient times, which can't be broken by these demons in Hades. Not long ago, the array flag, which had not much power left, trapped nearly 100 underworld people, including the 9 Yuming Emperors. They were also helpless. It was only when the field power was about to run out that the field survived. Except for the monks who set up the Skylock Array, the rest of them took a rest. Yan Lai looks around the numerous friars on the scene and orders. Most of the friars did as they were told. But the great friars of Yupu Kingdom gathered around Yan Lai and didn't leave for breathing, but Yan Lai didn't say anything. He knew that no one would go away before the strong enemy was removed. Seeing that the Terran friars fell to the ground, they began to adjust their breath to restore their mana. After a discussion between the demons and the underworld, they stopped attacking the field shield and began to adjust their breath to restore their mana. At this time, the shield suddenly disappeared, and Yan Lai and the more than 20 famous friars flashed to the powerful of the underworld and the demons. When the Hell Repair and the Devil Repair want to take advantage of this opportunity to escape, the field shield just appears again. This time, Yan Lai and more than 20 famous monks are trapped in it. However, this was not the misoperation of the monks, but Yan Lai's intention. Shield again, Yan Lai without saying a word, immediately big killer, all kinds of terrorist attacks, general harvest many demons in underworld life. More than 20 great friars of the famous clans are equally unrelenting. Before, they were beaten by the underworld clan and the demon clan and killed and injured some of the strong ones of the Terran clan. Originally, they were very depressed. Now Yan Lai Tang comes and separates the underworld clan from the demon clan. Naturally, all kinds of means come out frequently. One move is a mace. The shield is only 10 feet in diameter, and it's extremely strong. With the shield, the hell and the devil can't even move. In such a small space, facing the means of the great monks in the heaven, we can imagine the end of the demons and the underworld. While Yanlai and more than 20 Yupu monks are slaughtering the underworld and the demons in the shield, in another shield of the heaven-locked array, the demon emperor Bisho sees this scene, and is extremely angry and crazy to attack the solid shield. For a moment, the sound of boom and boom kept coming out, deafening. But Yi Tian's new lock sky array field is also extremely strong. No matter how Bisho attacks, there is no sign of being broken. It wasn't long before Yanlai and other Terran friars killed all the underworld and demons in that field. Then Bisho stared at a pair of red eyes that seemed to be bleeding and calmed down. Standing in the field, he watched the shield not far away disappear slowly. Then he watched Yanlai take many friars to the shield where he was. He stood outside and looked at himself coldly through the transparent shield. Yanlai sighed, those Jade Pu realm big friars also like this, eyes can't help cold, and full of hatred. On the ground in the distance, the powerful Ming Xiu and Ming Xiu who had been killed had already fallen to the ground. Some monks followed and collected the store bones and rings. This was not the end. The human monks who had accumulated countless hatred used various means to whip, smash and burn the corpses. It seemed that they wanted to vent all their resentments at this moment. Some monks were cheering, some were roaring, and more were silent, but their eyes were very cold. Seeing this scene, Bisho turned his head slowly and looked into Yanlai's colder eyes. Rao Shi, as the leader of the demons, felt cold. When I thought about it, I was full of spirit and self-confidence. I had a good plan with the 9 Yuming Emperor. I thought that the two great powers would join hands to kill the million cloth robbers in Huajiechi, and even kill some great monks in Yupu, which would hurt the vitality of the human race. But in the twinkling of an eye, the situation took a turn for the worse. The 9th Yuming Emperor was defeated, and all the people who were brought with him died. He was trapped in the field of the lock sky array alone. All around were friars of the human race who wanted to swallow themselves up, and even Yanlai, a strong man of the same realm. Bisho knew that he couldn't be good today. It was also his carelessness. For a moment, he was bewildered. He believed the 9U whistle and the false news that the power of the Terran sky locking array flag was exhausted. He rushed to the Terran area with so few hands. The only thing that made him feel a little relieved was that although he was trapped in the field shield of lock sky array, he was not in danger for the time being. This field can't kill itself. If you want to kill yourself, unless Yanlai and a group of Terrans enter the field, you have to remove the field shield first and then regroup. The evil Emperor Bisho has enough assurance, the moment the field shield is removed, he can directly cast the big move skill. No matter how fast the fire is, he can't stop his big move skill. When he thought about it, his heart gradually calmed down. Looking at Yanlai's cold eyes, he began to sneer, "Old Yan, what do you want to do to trap the local people here? It's just a waste of the power of the field. If you have great ability, I welcome you to come inside and teach you. Or let me go and fight with you." Yanlai just glared at the enchanted Emperor Bisho and kept silent. Seeing Yanlai's expression, the evil Emperor Bisho is more proud. He knows the strength comparison between himself and Yanlai. Although he suffered some injuries before, he can't fight with Yanlai, but Yanlai can't keep himself. Bisho felt that Yanlai trapped himself in the field because he just wanted to kill the underworld and the demon alliance, and he couldn't go out to interfere. However, when all the things are finished and only one is left, this situation seems to be inflamed and difficult. Ha ha ha, how about old Yan? No guts? Now you don't know what to do you? Let go of the Emperor, you can't lose face. But if we don't let it go, we'll spend it here? He continued, laughing. This time, Yanlai ignores Bisho and turns to see Tian, who has recovered from invisibility in the distance. He asks, "Brother, is there any way to send my elder brother in, and make sure that I can't let Bisho run away? My elder brother is going to go in and kill him to get rid of this disaster." Yi Tian said in an unremarkable voice, "There is a way, and it's very simple. It can also ensure that Bisho can't escape. But Brother Bisho is a caged beast. He can't do anything with him. In case of any accident, the Terran will have no support." Yanlai's face and expression remained unchanged and continued to say, "Brother, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the human race. I can't think of a better opportunity. And you don't have to worry about old brother. He has fought with Bisho many times, and you know him very well. This time, he was wounded and joined hands with the 9th Yuming Emperor, but you can't help me, let alone him. If we can't make a quick decision in time, the demons will surely come to save us. At that time, countless demons will come and kill us. At that time, in order to trap Bisho, I don't know how many Terran friars will fall. Please try your best to let the elder brother fight Bisho now. Yi Tian was finally, Yanlai said, nodded with respect. Old brother must be careful, once there is something wrong, I will put you out in time. Well, as you say. Yanlai heard that Yi Tian finally agreed and said with a smile on his face. I need command power to meet the requirements of my brother-in-law. Yi Tian looks at the many friars around him and says to Yanlai. Naturally, there was no problem. Yanlai immediately said in a loud voice, all the monks listened to the orders. Now the command is given to Yi Tian, and he will be given the post of special envoy of the alliance leader. His orders are my orders, and those who violate the rules of the alliance will engage in it. When he said this, all the monks could not help but look awe-inspiring and bowed to Yi Tian, see the special envoy of the alliance leader. It's just a matter of rights and interests. Seeing so many people salute, Yi Tian waved his hand and said, you don't have to be polite. The alliance leader enters the field to fight with Bai Xiu. You should cooperate with Yi to send the alliance leader into the field. Respect the order of the alliance leader's special envoy. They agreed loudly and waited for the order quietly. Yi Tian's figure soared up, and after he was in the eye-catching position above the crowd, he said in a loud voice, there's no need to change the arrangement of this field. In addition, those who hold the 36-bar array flag stand in their own positions, and then arrange another field outside this field. So that's the way. Listen to Yi Tian so arrange, Burning Fears suddenly realize, so simple method oneself unexpectedly didn't think of? Thinking about this, Yanlai's body moves and leans to the field where Bai Xiu is trapped. On the other hand, Ran Zishan found his position with the main array flag in his hand, and so did the other 35 people. However, between 3 or 2 breaths, he had already stood in his position. Then Ran Zishan urged the magic power on the main array flag. With a buzzing sound, a new field shield suddenly took shape, enclosing the field shield of Yanlai and Bai Xiu. Yi Tian checked a little, did not find any mistakes, then again opened his mouth and ordered, the inner field of the array monks, close the shield. The main array flag of the inner field is in the hands of Jinbei King. Hearing the words, he hit the main array flag with a magic power. The light on the inner shield flickered a few times, and then the shield disappeared out of thin air. Only the just finished outer field shield is still running, and in the shield, Yanlai and Bisho are standing face to face. The next moment, within the shield, the war broke out. Yanlai and Bisho almost shot at the same time, and stood in one place. However, outside the field, Yi Tian did not stop. Instead, he continued to order, those who withdraw from the inner field should stand on their own positions and arrange the field outside the shield. In a word, many great friars of Yupu Kingdom took action again. The king of Jinbei urged the main array flag, and the field shield appeared again, covering the outer layer of the inner shield. 2 layers of shield appear at the same time. But Yi Tian did not give up, still again ordered, inner shield deployment fellow, remove the shield. Ran Zishan made a gesture. Almost at the same time of Yi Tianxia's command, he had finished the removal of the shield. At this time, he took a long breath. Yi Tian's repeated orders, cloth removed, seems to play with children like, in fact, it is very reasonable. It may take some time for other friars to react, but as soon as Yi Tian opens his mouth and orders, Ran Zishan has fully understood Yi Tian's mind. There was no other reason. Because Ran Zishan manipulated the field shield under the main array flag, it was impossible to trap Bisho for a long time, because he was the only monk in Yupu realm, and the rest were all monks in Huashan realm. So when the inner shield is removed and Yanlai meets with Bisho, as long as Bisho fiercely attacks the field shield for several times, it is very likely to break the field and get away smoothly. But Bisho didn't seem to take this layer into consideration. Seeing the shield appear, his first reaction was that he was trapped again, and he directly fought with Yanlai. It was only when they knew that the king of the north of the town and his gang had set up a field shield in the outer layer that Bishio was completely trapped. However, Ran Zishan's shield was still in the innermost part, which was easy to be broken by the war. That would cause a great loss to the power of the flag. So Yi Tiankai issued this order and removed the inner shield. After such an operation, the shield that trapped Bishio was still the field that the king of Jinbei presided over at the beginning, but now there is another alliance leader Yanlai in the shield. It's complicated to say, but the actual operation is very simple. It's just two changes of the field. Some monks who have some knowledge of the field soon understand the truth, and they can't help but admire Yi Tian's agility. At this time, the battle in the shield was in full swing, and Bishio didn't know what means he used, and he began to send out a strong magic chi, which kept gathering together in the narrow space inside the shield. Gradually, the whole shield is full of evil chi. At the beginning, it was light. As time went on, the inside of the shield became more and more dark. Until the end, it was as black as ink. It was impossible to see anything inside with the naked eye. The aftereffect of the fierce fight between the two men, even the direct attack of the big fight, bombarded the shield continuously and made a rumbling sound. All this shows that the fierce fighting inside has reached a certain degree. All the Terran friars looked at the dark shield. Although they couldn't see the situation inside, their hearts hung to their throat. It is obvious that this is a battle between the dead and the dead. If you win fiercely, the Terran will get rid of the oppression of the demons. If you win, the Terran will get away from the oppression of the demons. If you win, the Terran will get away from the oppression of the demons. If you lose, the Terran will fall down. It is very likely that the Terran will even get rid of its name in the wasteland. This is a battle concerning the whole human race in the spiritual realm of the great wilderness and the destiny of every friar. The only calm in the field is Yi Tian. Although the inside of the shield is dark, Yi Tianyuan's eyes shine through, and he can see the situation inside clearly. From the beginning, Yanlai always had the upper hand, almost pressing Bishio to fight. Moreover, the means came out frequently, and all kinds of magical powers emerged in endlessly, which made Yi Tian open his eyes. I know more about the strength of the monks in Heaven Palace. After all, Bishio, the demon emperor, was also a monk in the same realm. Although he had a slight disadvantage, there were also many means. He was always fighting to the death. Boom! Boom! The continuous roar in the field shield affects the heart of the monks outside the field. This kind of field shield, which can't be isolated from the naked eye, but can be isolated from the divine exploration, because the dark evil spirit is full of, which makes the war more mysterious and more dangerous. Gradually, the monk who could not observe the situation inside began to observe the expression of Qi Yi Tian. Yi Tian's eyes are penetrating and can see things that others can't see. For a time, this matter quietly spread. Yi Tian's expression became the vein of the war in the shield. When Yi Tian's feeling is indifferent, people are also in a relaxed mood. When Yi Tian occasionally frowns, people's hearts are also raised. When Yi Tian occasionally pondered, people also thought in their hearts, what kind of war situation in the end would make the night talk appear this kind of expression? In fact, Yi Tian was just watching the fighting skills between Yanlai and Bishio, and suddenly he was touched and inspired, and he was just comprehending it. With the continuous fighting in the shield, the roar is getting louder and louder, and Yi Tian's expression is also beginning to get nervous. In a certain period of time, Yi Tian did not even blink his eyes, but he fixed his eyes on the shield, frowning from time to time. Little by little, more than an hour passed quietly. In the usual very ordinary period of time, but at this moment, it seems to be so long. Finally, after a violent poof sound inside the shield, the original fierce fighting stopped suddenly and returned to silence. At this time, people did not know what happened inside the shield, who won and who lost, and what the situation was. Had to continue to observe Yi Tian's face. At this time, a smile finally appeared on Yi Tian's lips, and then his right hand was raised high, and then he suddenly fell down and yelled, "Withdraw!" With these two words out, the surrounding immediately broke out a tsunami-like voice. Everyone knows that this means that the alliance leader Yanlai has won the final victory. When Yi Tian called out these two words, the king of Jinbei made a gesture. A magic power hit the array flag. The shield flickered a few times, and then disappeared out of thin air. Inside, the dark evil spirit lost the shackles of the shield and began to spread everywhere. In the dense diffusion of evil spirit, Yen Lai appeared in front of many monks with Bisho's huge corpse in his hand. Alliance leader. Alliance leader. Many Terran friars immediately cheered to welcome the triumphant leader. Yen Lai stood in the air and let the evil spirit permeate his body. He suddenly said in a loud voice, "The evil Emperor Bisho has been removed from the wasteland since today. The demons have become the weakest in the spiritual realm of the wasteland. Now, let's make some preparations and follow me to capture the demons." With the burning voice, the Terran friars broke out a long-standing cheering again. Everyone knows that the pattern of the great wilderness spiritual realm has been rewritten since today. The Orcs and the Terrans have made a blood oath of peace for 300 years, from which the two sides can temporarily put out their swordsmen. Although the 9th Yuming Emperor of the Underworld is here, the middle and top power of the Underworld has been seriously damaged in the first battle of the wilderness, which is not enough to worry about. But the Demon Clan lost the Demon Emperor Bisho. It will be a leaderless situation. In front of the human clan with the great friars in the heavenly palace, I'm afraid it's very difficult to even protect themselves. It's very likely that the Terran will become the most powerful one in the great wilderness after this war. After all, the Orc, which was stronger than before the Terran, was also killed by Yen Lai in the Battle of Wanlu Mountain. As for the Terran, with the power supplement of the Skylock Array flag, it is equivalent to one more great monk in the Heaven Palace. It's so mythical that the human race has changed from the weakest one to the strongest one. When the voice of many friars was a little lower, he pressed his hands and continued, "Since the war between the human race and the three races, Tian, the friar, has made many miraculous achievements. It can be said that without Tian, the human race would be unimaginable. Not to mention today's great victory over the three ethnic groups. Moreover, Tian also made an indelible contribution to the development of the human race in the future. Today, I announce that Tian does not need to participate in the Gene election anymore. With his immortal merit, I directly appointed him as the first Dragon's Gate Saint's son. As for the other two Dragon's Gate Saints, they will go through the competition and selection in the future." After Yenlia's words, a cheering burst out around him again. Tian's deeds have been widely spread, and his contributions to the human race are well known. Yen Lai's appointment immediately received the response of the public. What's more, Yen Lai has appointed Tian as the special envoy of the alliance leader before. Compared with the special envoy of the alliance leader, the appointment of the first Dragon's Gate son seems to be less abrupt. This time, Yen Lai continued to suppress the voice of the crowd, and then said, "I have to announce one thing. Here, I want to become a brother of a different surname with Tian. Heaven and earth are the evidence, and all of you will be witnesses." This sentence did not cause too much reaction, because people have been stunned. The news that Yen Lai says is more and more powerful, until finally this news let everybody dumbfounded directly. It seems that since ancient times, such a thing has never happened. But after a short silence, the crowd broke out a wave of cheers again, and everyone gradually realized that the relationship between Tian and Yen Lai was getting closer and closer, even to this degree. On the other hand, it reflects that the importance of the human race to Tian has given Tian a great honor, which is beyond the reach of a monk in Longmen realm, even in Jindan realm and Yuanying realm. Tian's achievements are limitless in the future. Yen Lai did what he said. He quickly asked people to prepare incense table, candle, spirit wine and other things that should be worshipped. Then he took Tian and knelt down in front of the incense table. After 3 kowtows, he worshipped heaven and earth, drank Tongxin wine, and became a true brother. "Brother, you don't have to take part in the attack. The only problem is that the orcs and the underworld may take advantage of the fire, but it's not a big problem. They may not really dare. The sky array is locked in hand, and Baishio died in the old brother's hand as a deterrent. I believe they can't go too far. As for resources, you will be satisfied when your elder brother comes back." After getting up, Yen Lai pulls Tian's hand and solemnly says, "Tian didn't insist on it. Just as Yen Lai said, the affairs of the demon should come naturally. One more is not much, and one less is not much. At that moment, he said, why don't my brother take the set of sky array flag I imitated, just in case?" Yen Lai immediately waved his hand, "No need. Elder brother's hand and a set of array flags are enough. Take them with you. If you have nothing else to do, you can find a place to rest near Huajia Pool. Lanling Marquis will also stay here. If Jojo Devil dares to come here, you can trap him first. Elder brother will come back and let him go with you. Well, I wish my brother back soon. Yi Tian knows that it's time to fight against the clock. He needs to take advantage of the time when the demons don't have time to react and take back all the land occupied by the demons. He doesn't say any more and says goodbye. Yanlai nodded slightly and left here with more than 50 great friars in Yupu. Envoy Yet, as the alliance leader said, please help yourself. The only remaining great friar in Yupu area, Marquis Lanling, came over a few steps and said to Yi Tian, I'm sorry for you. Yi Tian didn't refuse, so he put away the array flag given to him by the king of the north of the town, turned it into a light, and went west. Finally, he found a remote place and went underground. On a mountain far away from here, the White Ape Demon King looked at the direction of Huajia Pool and kept silent for a long time. Demon King, don't we have a share in the affairs of the demons? The other White Ape next to him asked. The White Ape Demon King shook his head. It's not necessary to participate in this matter for the time being. Let the Terran fight with the demons and the underworld. The orcs have made blood vows and should not fight. Moreover, the array flag of the Terran is so powerful that we have to defend it. But Yi Tian can't stay. It's not convenient for the orcs to do it. You can find a Terran monk who has a grudge against him and buy him at all costs. You can't let him grow up again. Otherwise, the Terran family will be the only one in the future. Yes, Demon King. The White Ape of the middle-aged man agreed, disappeared from the original place. Time goes by day. On this day, Yi Tian, who was practicing in the Time and Space Tower, suddenly received a message from the Marquis of Lanling. Envoys Yi Te, all the Bujie warriors have been robbed. Go back to recuperate. Things are over here. The disciples of the special envoy and the Kunlun people are waiting near the Huajia Pool. The voice of Marquis Lanling came from the messenger. Yi Tianlu thinks about it, gets up and leaves the Time and Space Tower, and drives the fierce sword to Huajia Pool. See the special envoy of the alliance leader. As soon as Yi Tiangang falls to the ground, many monks who guard the Huajia Pool bow to Yi Tian regardless of their level. This kind of situation reminds Yi Tian of the scene when many disciples and grandchildren saw the ceremony in the blessed land of Qingming in Fengsuan spirit region. A little feeling in the heart waved his hand, let everyone not too much red tape. However, many friars finished the ceremony respectfully and stood aside with great rules. Master. Grand Master. Up to now, Yi Tian's 11 disciples and 96 Kunlun practitioners have had the chance to attend the ceremony. Yi Tianlu nodded slightly, but came to the Lanling Marquis who was in charge of guarding the Huajia Pool. Marquis, since there is nothing wrong here, I will leave here for the time being. If there is anything, I can send a message. Yi's emissary is, but I have a word to remind, now the demons, the underworld and the orcs hate you to the bone, so the special envoy must be more careful. Lanling Marquis solemnly exhorted. Thank you for reminding me. I'll be careful. Yi Tian thanks, and then flies west with his disciples and Kunlun Xiu. Master, we've heard all about you. You've been appointed as the special envoy of the alliance leader, you've become a sworn brother with the alliance leader, and you've also been appointed as the first Dragon's Gate Saint's son. Master may not know that all the saints of Longmen were chosen by Jin Dynasty, and they were never divided into the first and the second. This time, Wan Yu League broke many rules for Master, and we disciples were treated with courtesy everywhere. On the way, Nieba said quickly. Yes, Master, originally you sent us to activate the evil spirit to neutralize the dark fog. Before it's over, the king of Jinbei will send someone to tell us to wait for Master here. We won't have to perform any more tasks in the future. Hua Ziqing received the introduction, and there was a proud expression between his words. At this time, Jin Zi also sighed, Master, when you first came to the spiritual realm of the Great Wilderness, the first time I saw you was to introduce you to the spiritual realm of the Great Wilderness. At that time, there was a talk about the privileged class of the spiritual realm of the Great Wilderness. I didn't expect that. How long has it been? We have become a privileged class because of the worship of your master. It's all like a dream. Think about it, we've all taken a big advantage with master. Yuya said happily, it's more than us. It's more than us disciples to shine with master? It's said that the Lord of Castle Peak City has been promoted from the Lord of Castle Peak City to the Garrison Envoy because he has given the Master the qualification test of Dragon's Gate Saint Sun. He replaced a Garrison Envoy named Feng Santong. I also heard that Feng Santong was killed by the Alliance leader himself because he wanted to do harm to the Master. It can be seen that the Alliance leader's attention to Master has far exceeded that of a Garrison Envoy in Yupu realm. Yes, I heard that, too. What's more interesting is that the leader of Lu Hall of Meritorious Service, who once exempted my debt, was promoted to be the leader of Fengyun City for his great contribution in recommending Shifu. The city master of Fengyun City was demoted to the Hall of Meritorious Service for the crime of dereliction of duty. And the Deacon Sheen of the city lord's mansion has also been removed. He has to do tasks to get resources. Jinji said. Yi Tian didn't like the news. He glanced at many disciples and said with a smile, Jinji, Yuya and Zicheng are all female practitioners. Some of the 8 trigrams still have feelings. How about Mieba? Mieba touched his head and laughed sheepishly. In fact, I haven't said much. There are still many news. During the period of Zhangyi and Mingwu, many friars came to make friends with me and wanted to be introduced by the disciples. But the disciples are not fussy. When my father was a teacher, he was ridiculed and ridiculed. Unexpectedly, after a few days, my Mieba has become a person they can't afford. And they can't kneel down and beg master to accept it. Monks should guard against arrogance and impatience and keep their heart. You see, you are not as good as my Kunlun people in this respect. Yi Tian's face reproached him, and then he looked at the many Kunlun practitioners who followed him and said nothing. In the Kunlun cultivation team, Lin Yifan heard that Yi Tian mentioned Kunlun cultivation, and hastened to summon his magic power to Yi Tian's side. Grandmaster, our grandfathers are of high rank, so we can't overstep them. They're done praising. It's our turn to be disciples of future generations. At first, we were very embarrassed when we appeared. Some friars who didn't know our identity called us birdmen. Later, when they knew our relationship, they changed their name and called us angels. If the Grandmaster heard someone's name later, it was me. I'm going to Yi Tian smell speech, looking at Lin Yifan dumbfounded, with a finger at him, Lang is not to say a word. They talked and laughed and came to a quiet mountain. Yi Tian took the lead in falling into a hidden valley, and the people followed him. The past is like a cloud. You have to rely on yourself to practice. All respect seems to be given by others, but in fact it is given by yourself. Although the aura is dazzling, it is illusory. Only the improvement of one's own realm and strength is the king's way. Did you take it down? Just after standing in the valley, Yi Tian suddenly faced a large group of monks in the Golden Elixir realm and solemnly said such words. These words came from a monk in the Longmen realm, which was quite funny. However, none of the disciples and the Kunlun people were amused. They all listened respectfully and solemnly, and they could not help warning themselves in their hearts. Yi Tian saw everyone's respectful manner, could not help nodding slightly, and continued, Do you know about the Fire Alliance leaders killing the evil Emperor Bisho? Yes, we all know that, not only us, but also all the people in the Wild Spirit realm, who doesn't know? Nieba came back respectfully as his elder martial brother. Do you know why Bishop of the Devil didn't escape? Yi Tian continues to ask. Nieba chuckled and said, Of course, it's well known that the master commanded many great monks in Yupu realm to urge Suwatan Array Field to trap the evil Emperor Bisho, so that he had no chance to escape. Finally, he was killed by the leader of Yin Alliance in the field. Yi Tian nodded and said with a smile, It's easy to say if you know. The reason why I mention this is that I also have a set of Skylock Array flag in my hand. I want to teach you how to use it here. Using Yupu cultivation as an impetus array flag can trap monks in heaven. However, it's easy for you to trap the monk in the spirit realm for a short time, driven by your cultivation in the golden elixir realm. Although in the large-scale wars of the human race, the orc race, the underworld race and the demon race, because of the existence of the monks in the heavenly palace in the Jade Pu realm, the role of the monks in the divine realm was greatly weakened. Another phenomenon is that the friars of Jindanjing have been regarded as dispensable in the war. For the friars of Jindan realm, the friars of Huashan realm are still the great power friars that can only be looked up to. In the spiritual realm of the great wilderness, the city masters of some small cities, namely, the cultivation of the spiritual realm. It's said that the flag of the Lock Sky Array can trap the monk of the spirit realm with his own cultivation of the golden elixir realm. People immediately became interested and looked at Yi Tian eagerly, waiting for the following. With a gesture, Yi Tian took out the whole set of array flags and put them on the ground. He said, "There are 36 array flags in this set, one is the main array flag, and 35 are the auxiliary array flags. The field urging and sending and receiving are controlled by the main array flag, and the auxiliary array flag and the main array flag are linked to form the field." While displaying the array flag, Yi Tian explains, and then points out where the 36 Tian gang positions are, where the Tiankui position is, where the Tian gang position is, where the Tianji position is, and where the Tianxiang position, Tianming position, Tianyu position, Tianshou position, Tianjin position and so on. This is the most basic foundation of array arrangement. If you are not familiar with the 36 members of Tian gang, you can't talk about array arrangement at all. You should not only be familiar with it, but also be thoroughly familiar with it. Yi Tian's teaching of array started from memorizing the 36 members of Tian gang. After repeated practice, Yi Tian's 11 disciples and 96 Kunlun practitioners became more and more familiar with the 36 Tian gang positions. One day later, even with their eyes closed, they could quickly and accurately find the positions of all the 36 Tian gang positions. Array. Yi Tian arranged a place for 36 of them, and then he gave a loud drink. The shadows in the valley flashed one after another. 36 of them had come to their positions accurately, and there was no delay. Yes, barely qualified. Yi Tian nodded calmly and continued, "Proceed to the next procedure, accurately identify 30 array flags. After getting the array flags, you should immediately be able to determine which orientation of the array flags you are getting, and then quickly get in place. This is also a test of eyesight and memory, but for these monks, there is no pressure to identify the position of the array flag." In this way, Yi Tian had a comprehensive training. Everyone took turns to control the array flags in different positions to quickly arrange the array. Even if it was the main array flag, Yi Tian also made everyone proficient. Although there are so many people at the moment, if the situation is urgent, someone may need to set up the array at any time, so his goal is to make everyone master the Skylock array in an all-round way, and anyone can control the array flag at any position. Not only to be able to operate, but also to be particularly skilled, thoroughly familiar with the heart, so that practice makes perfect. After 3 days of secret training, even if Yi Tian, who has always been very strict with his disciples, can't find a single fault in the face of everyone's flowing array body method, he stops training. Well, this is the end of the training of the Skylock array flag, but the proficiency of the flag can't be put down. The essentials of the Skylock array given today should be kept in mind at all times, and we should be cautious at all times. We should take collective action at ordinary times, and be as ready as possible at any time. Yi Tian once again warned everyone. "Don't worry, Master, we will keep our due vigilance." Before he finished his sentence, Yi Tian suddenly looked up at the sky, but saw a light flying to this side at a very fast speed. "Yeet Envoy, I didn't expect to meet you here. The monk who came here is the cultivation of transforming the divine realm." When he gets closer, he warmly greets Yi Tian. Yi Tian's expression slightly coagulated, and then he also exchanged greetings with a smile. "It's the Lord of Yin City. It's really nice to meet you. Last time I left in a hurry, the treasure you asked me to identify already has an eye. It really involves a big secret. I'll wait for Yi to tell the Lord in detail." Looking at his figure, the monk who came here is the Yenqing Lord who fought with Yi Tian in the wilderness and asked him for help. Hearing Yi Tian's words, Lord Yan's brow moved slightly and said with a smile, "Thank you, Special Envoy Yi. I know Yi Daoyu has great powers. Nothing can be hard to live you." With these words, Lord Yan slowly falls to Yi Tian's side. As soon as Lord Yan landed, Yi Tian's body moved abruptly, and the electric beam fell back, almost informing him that as soon as the power of exterminating hegemony urged the array flag in his hand, the field of locked dragon array suddenly started, trapping Lord Yin in it. Why, Ambassador yet? Yen Chengju looks a change, but immediately returned to normal, with a puzzled expression asked. But Yi Tian doesn't answer. He takes out a message sign and quickly inspires him to go out. Seeing that Yi Tian inspires the messenger, the Lord of Yen is flustered. He doesn't say any more. He takes out a black sword and tries his best to attack the field shield. Nieba and the other 36 Skylock Array Arrangers poured magic power into the array flag. However, the shield of Skylock Array was extremely strong. With the attack strength of the strict city master, they could not do anything at all. With more than 10 swords in one breath, Lord Yen finally stops and looks at Yi Tian, who is calm and sneering outside the array. His face is pale and defeated. Yeet envoy. At this time, a slight aura ripple appeared in the sky, and the figure of Lanling Marquis flashed out of the ripple. Then, cold eyes looked into the shield. Hua Yenguang? The next moment, Lanling Ho unexpectedly called out a name. Hearing the word Hua Yenguang, the Lord of Yan's face became more ugly. He immediately put away his sword and saluted the Marquis of Lanling, Hua Yengang, see Marquis of Lanling. Then, his face changed rapidly and became a strange monk that Yi Tian had never seen before. It's just before today, but Yi Tian Yuan saw his face clearly when he first appeared. The reason why Yi Tian used Yuan Tianian is that Yi Tian has formed the habit of being more and more cautious. Although this person looks the same as Lord Yen, and his voice is very similar, there are some subtle differences after all. Yi Tian is acutely aware of this, so he uses Yuan Tian's eye to see his true face carefully. After all, Yi Tian often uses Huarong technique, so he knows it well. If Hua Yenguang doesn't pretend to be Lord Yen, but appears as he is, maybe Yi Tian won't send a message to Mieba and others directly to urge Suo Tianjin. But this person hide his head and show his tail. Yi Tianxin's vigilance has been raised to the top level. No matter what, it is impossible to give each other any chance. Lanling Ho looked at Hua Yenguang coldly. The gloomy meaning in his eyes was very obvious. He didn't pay any attention to Hua Yenguang's salute. He just stared at Hua Yenguang coldly and didn't say a word. Marquis Lanling, I'm just joking with Special Envoy Yi. I know that Yi Te Envoy and Lord Yen are familiar with each other, and I heard that Ye's eyesight is very strong, so... In the field of Suo Tian formation, Hua Yenguang felt the eyes of Lanling Marquis, and the muscles on his cheek beat a few times. He soon recovered his natural expression and began to explain. But as Lanling Marquis' eyes became colder, his voice became lower and lower. Needless to say, what's your intention? I'll find out later after a little soul-searching, and it will come to light. Special Envoy Yi is not only the special envoy of the alliance leader, but also the first holy son of Longmen. He is the sworn brother of the alliance leader Yen. One Yu alliance will not leave any feelings for anyone who is unfavorable to him. If you are really just joking, it will not hurt. Naturally, a small punishment will be enough. If you really have other malice and want to attack ETE, then today's affairs will be big. I believe that your cultivation road will end here. Lanling Ho's voice was as cold as before. With these words, Hua Yenguang's face turned white and sweat appeared on his face. In fact, Yi Tian's heart is very clear. When Hua Yenguang attacked the field shield, his heart was clear. It's just that he is very strange that he doesn't know this person. Why does Hua Yenguang mean evil in his heart? If it wasn't for his own heavenly eye power and timely response, Kunlun Xiao and his disciples would activate the array flag very quickly. I really don't know what would happen. Therefore, for this person, Yi Tian does not have the slightest pity, just cold eyes waiting for the result of Lanling Ho's disposal. Hua Yenguang, if you honestly wait for the soul search, I may leave some feelings for my subordinates when I know the result. If you have the idea of resistance, you will bear the consequences. The voice of Lanling Ho said coldly and turned to Yi Tian, Yi Te sure, please remove the field of the sky array. Yi Tian nods his head and makes a gesture. When Mieba sees this, a magic power hits the array flag, and the field shield disappears out of thin air. Just as the shield was removed, Hua Yenguang suddenly turned into a light and flew away to the distance, thinking of escaping. The Marquis of Lanling had been on guard for a long time, but she didn't know how to move. a white light rose from her body and caught up with Hui Yenguang. Where the light was shining, Hui Yenguang's arm had been cut off by the white light. As soon as the white light struck, he was dazzled and hovered. Hui Yenguang's other arm and 2 legs were also surrounded by the white light and separated from his body, splashing with scarlet blood and falling down from the sky. At the next moment, the Marquis of Lanling came to Hui Yenguang with a flash of his body. With a move, the white light turned into a flying sword and fell on the Marquis of Lanling. Then it disappeared. Lanling Marquis didn't stop moving. A magic power in her hand fell on Hui Yenguang. Hui Yenguang, who was still dragging his body in an attempt to escape, immediately seemed to be fixed and couldn't move a step in the air. With the palm of his hand on Hui Yenguang's head, the Marquis of Lanling began to search for his soul. With the investigation of Hui Yenguang's memory, Lan Lingho's face became very ugly. After a fragrant time, Lan Lingho gave a cold hum, and Shanshan left Hui Yenguang's head. He grabbed Hui Yenguang's shoulder and landed on the ground. Then he took out a messenger, whispered a few words, and then inspired them. It was sent by Marquis Jing'an. Seeing Yi Tian's inquiring eyes, the anger in the eyes of Marquis Lanling came up and said, "This time, Marquis Jing'an has done evil and can't live." Wild Land. Near the Demon King Mountain, since Yi Tian sneaked into the Demon King Mountain and took away the White Wolf Demon King's young son, in order to prevent similar things from happening again, the guard here is more strict. Besides the white ape, many other powerful monster races have been added outside. There are a lot of powerful monsters on patrol and defense, which protect the Demon King Mountain like iron pouring copper. At a certain moment, in the sky on the east side of the Demon King, a slight ripple suddenly appeared, and then a famous monk appeared. Looking at his appearance, he is the Marquis of Jing'an who sent Hui Yenguang to kill Yi Tian. Tarun? Marquis Jing'an. As soon as he appeared, 2 monsters appeared and stopped in front of Marquis Jing'an. One of them has 2 horns on his head. His face is dark and his nose and eyes are prominent. He looks like the Bull Demon King in the Journey to the West. He is a 7th level monster of the Demon Cattle clan. Another monster also has 2 horns, but it is smaller than the horn of the Demon Cow. It is not very pure and smooth. There are twists and turns of branches and forks of different thickness on it, just like a reduced version of the antlers. This beast is also a 7-level cultivation, belonging to the demon deer family. Tarun? Even dare to intrude into the Demon King Mountain, don't want to leave safely today. The Demon Cow obviously knew the Marquis of Jing'an, but didn't pay any attention to the Marquis of Jing'an. As soon as I finish my sentence, I will start. The Marquis of Jing'an flashed quickly, dodged to the side, and said in a loud voice, "Wait a minute, my own people, I have worked under the Demon King's tent. Here is the token of the White Ape Demon King. If you don't believe it, you can have a look." Speak words, Jingan Ho gesture move, a black light suddenly flashed to the Demon Cow. The Demon Cow's face showed a puzzled expression and reached for it. Just as he looked at the token in his hand, suddenly ripples appeared again in the sky, and the next moment, the burning figure appeared. Demon cattle and deer to see the fierce, can't help body suddenly back, obviously to the fierce quite fear. Set. After the appearance of Yen Lai, without saying a word, he didn't pay any attention to the demon ox and the demon deer, and a terrible mana suddenly hit the Marquis of Jing'an. The magic power was surging and worshipping, as if it were covered with dark clouds. It suddenly contracted and firmly oppressed the Marquis of Jing'an in a radius of 3 feet. Before he had time to escape, the Marquis of Jing'an was oppressed by powerful mana. His body was tight and he could not move at all. Alliance leader Yen, have you forgotten the blood oath of the Terran and the Orc? Just when the Marquis of Jing'an was trapped and Yen Lai was about to arrest him, the White Ape Demon King appeared 10 feet away from Yen Lai. He put out his hand to stop Yen Lai's subsequent action. Yen Lai coldly looked at the Duke of Jing'an. Finally, the focus of his eyes fell on the White Ape Demon King. "The White Ape Demon King, you still remember the blood oath of the Terran and the ORC. You said that they would not invade, but you ordered the Duke of Jing'an to fight against the Dragon's Gate son of our Terran. If you destroyed the blood oath, it was the White Ape Demon King who destroyed it first." Ha ha ha. The White Ape Demon King laughed and said, "Yen Lai, I'm afraid you forgot the content of the blood oath. The Blood Oath only says that the orcs will not invade the Terran within 300 years. Look, in this situation, have we invaded the Terran? It's just that you people are killing each other. I'm just taking advantage of your hatred, greed, and jealousy. Originally, the Duke of Jingen appeared here, and Yen Lai, who received a message from the Duke of Lanling, just guessed that the Duke of Jingen was in collusion with the White Ape Demon King. Now the White Ape Demon King said it bluntly, and Yen Lia's eyes were colder when he looked at the Duke of Jingen. Once in the main hall of Wanlu Valley, he once solemnly warned Marquis Jingen not to trouble Yi Tian, but he insisted on going his own way and actually did it. What's more, he colluded with the orcs and accepted the order of the White Ape Demon King. This is not a matter of personal enmity, but loyalty to the human race. Well, White Ape, no matter what you say, I will come back to you for justice in the future. Today is the internal affairs of the Terran. If you intervene forcefully, we can't have a big fight. Maybe Bishio is waiting for you on the way to the Yellow Spring. Inflamed at this time in anger, Cold Hum cheers away. The White Ape Demon King heard the words, his face changed, and then he let him go. It's not that I'm afraid of you, but I don't want to intervene in the internal affairs of your Terran. In a word, this time I'll do a little trick, which will make you lose a great friar of Yupu realm. Speaking of it, I'm really wise. In his words, the White Ape Demon King was very proud, but he was afraid of the Terran. At least the power of locking the Sky Array made him afraid. If you are really locked in the Sky Array, even if there is no danger to your life, even if Yen Lai fights against the orcs during this period, you can't help him. After all, he intervened in the internal affairs of the Terran first, so Yen Lai didn't destroy the Oath of Blood. After hearing the White Ape Demon King say so, the Jingen Marquis, who had reported hope to him, immediately changed his face and said, Demon King, you can't leave me alone. You sent someone to say that once things are exposed, the orcs can protect us. Do you want to be a villain who doesn't believe what you say? Ha ha ha. The White Ape Demon King burst out a burst of laughter again. Marquis Jingen, you can betray even the people who gave birth to you and raised you. How can I believe you? You are just a pawn of the king. When there is value, you are still a chess piece. If there is no value, you are an abandoned piece. Moreover, the king is a beast, not a man. Your way of being a villain has nothing to do with the king. I can only blame you for being too stupid. You failed to kill a little monk in Longmen. What's the value of being a waste to the king? With that, the White Ape Demon King took a look at Yen Lai, waved his hand, and took many demon families back hundreds of feet. This, the face of Jingen Marquis is like Deadash General, temporarily stay laying on the spot. The next moment, Yen Lai step by step, Wannabe Mana imprisoned Jingen Ho, the palm slowly raised. Alliance Leader. Alliance Leader. Spare your life. My subordinates are confused for a while. Fortunately, they have not made a big mistake yet. Please spare my subordinate's life. From then on, I will definitely abandon the past, stop looking for Yi Tian's trouble, and work hard for the human race. Seeing that Yen Lai is about to start, the Marquis of Jingen immediately asks for mercy. But Yen Lai snorted coldly, it's late. In the Hall of Wanlagu, it's your last chance. You should know that Feng Santong has died in my hands, and the cause of his death is also bad for Yi Tian. Anyone who dares to do harm to Yi Tian is doomed to die here. There is no room for negotiation. No. No. Alliance Leader Yen, for my many years of human life and death, you can give me one last chance. I will not let Alliance Leader down if you look at my future performance. The Marquis of Jingen did not give up and continued to beg for mercy from Yen Lai. I said, your chance is gone. What can the Terran do without you? In the war against the underworld, you need to take care of your son Crazy Devil. Did you take part in the war? In the war against the demons, you excuse your son's madness more serious, you did not participate in the war. All these things have made the Terran abandon you, but you can't die of sin, but if you fight against Yi Tian, you will be worthy of death. Yen Lai words finish saying, the palm turns into a false shadow, already press in the head of Jingen Ho. Yen Lai didn't spit out his magic power and immediately killed Marquis Jingen. Instead, he searched for his soul first. He wanted to see how many bad things he had done behind his back. In the distance, the White Ape Demon King and others quietly watched the scene without any follow-up action. But in the bottom of my heart, the killing of Yi Tian is more intense. Yen Lai would rather sacrifice 2 great friars in Yupu realm to keep Yi Tian in Longmen realm, which makes the White Ape Demon King feel a great threat. The White Ape Demon King can see clearly the battle between the human race and the underworld from the beginning to the end. The White Ape Demon King knows very well the role Yi Tian played in this battle. If there is enough room for the growth of the demons of the human race, it will be a great trouble for the orcs. Maybe the orcs will always be suppressed by the human race in the wilderness. What's more, in this case, the orcs will collectively become the spiritual pet of the human race. If they don't follow, they will face the disaster of extermination. On the other hand, with reading the memory of Marquis Jing'an, Yen Lai's face became more and more ugly. The same is true of Marquis Jing'an. His face is already gray. As his actions are known by Yen Lai, he shows a pale color, then gray, and finally purple. His eyes also show a sense of death. Leader Yen, my subordinates deserve to die, but in terms of love for many years, please forgive me and let my family go. All of a sudden, the Jingan Hushur began to shout. At this time, Yen Lai took back the palm on the head of Marquis Jing'an slowly, without any response. He just patted the palm on the belly of Marquis Jing'an lightly. In a muffled hum of Marquis Jing'an, Yen Lai grasped his shoulder, looked back at the White Ape Demon King coldly, and then disappeared from the sky. Demon King, just let Yen Lai leave? After waiting for Yen Lai to leave, that demon cow stares at the direction that Yen Lai disappears, quite unwilling to say. The White Ape Demon King sneered and said, "A fierce man is not afraid. The cultivation of his heavenly palace has come to an end. Moreover, the Terran and we have a blood oath that there will not be a large-scale war with the underworld and the demons in 300 years. Yen Lai is not terrible, and so are the great friars of the Terran. The most terrible thing is Yi Tian, who only lives in Longmen. Although his current cultivation is still very low, he has made the demons and the underworld suffer so much. We orcs are also suffering a lot. If you really give him 300 years to grow up, who can predict how far he will grow up? So, what we have to deal with now is not Yen Lai, not the great friars of the human race, but Yi Tian, who is not well known. He is the heartthrob. If the order goes on, all the people in the 5th, 6th, and 7th levels of the orc can't let him grow up as long as they have the chance to kill Yi Tian at any cost. Since the Demon King attaches so much importance to it, why don't you go and kill him now?" The demon cow said with disapproval. "Well, if it was that easy, I would have done it. Why bother so much? First of all, Yi Tian wants to kill, but he must not stir up a war between man and beast, otherwise the beast will be killed by blood oath. Second, the Terran Marquis of Jing'an failed, which shows that Yi Tian's ability is not small, and the Terran protection of Yi Tian is also very comprehensive. At this time, you must not be reckless. It is estimated that Yi Tian is in the protection of the Terran. We need to look for opportunities and make sure that we can kill with one blow. Anyway, there is still a lot of time left. This matter must be carried out safely. Yes, Laonyo must pass on the meaning of the Demon King." The demon cow hears the White Ape Demon King say so, this just facial expression as Su Ground returns away. Those who kill Yi Tian will be rewarded according to their achievements in fighting. The White Ape Demon King then added. This speech, the surrounding high-level monsters are allaying, and then the expression of ecstasy appeared on his face. This reward is too high, but the target is only a little monk in Longmen realm. In the history of orcs, this is a mismatch reward that has never appeared before, and almost all orcs are eager to try it. In another valley, Marquis Lanling and Yi Tian are chatting and waiting. Suddenly, ripples appear in the sky. Yen Lai grabs the Marquis of Jing'an and comes out of it and falls to the ground. Yen Lai throws the Marquis of Jing'an to the ground at will and throws it to Hui Yenguang, who is only a remnant body. Then he looks at Yi Tian with an apologetic face. "My brother is frightened. My elder brother is not strict, which makes this happen. Here I make amends to my younger brother." With these words, Yen Lai, the leader of Wanyu League, bows to Yi Tian. "Brother, don't kill me like this. The elder brother is fighting against the demons. Because some of my younger brother's affairs have delayed the important affairs of the human race, I'm really sorry. Yi Tian quickly grasped Yan Lai's arm with both hands and helped him up. Yan Lai pointed and fell to the ground, and the Marquis of Jing'an said, "It was this man who was bewitched by the White Ape Demon King and took advantage of the orcs, and then madly attacked his younger brother. The elder brother has abandoned his cultivation, but this is not the final punishment. I'll make him miserable and make him regret the sin of betraying the human race." With these words, Yanlai gestures, Dai Jingan Ho fingers of Zumaji abruptly out of the fingers, to Yanlai hand. Soon, Yanlai wiped off the mental imprint on it, and took out a magic weapon cave the size of a fist. He also wiped off the mental imprint on it, leaving his own mental imprint. It was not easy to erase the original image of the god when the original owner was still there, but as a monk in the heavenly palace, it was very simple for Yanlai to do such a thing. It only takes a little time. "Father, have you arrived at the Demon King Mountain?" Magic Cave quickly enlarged into a Fuzhang Square Hall, fell into the valley, then came a sound from inside. Next, Wei Wuyan sure ran, who didn't know what had happened, came out from inside. Behind him were several beautiful young nuns. But when he saw Yi Tian and Yan Lai, Wei Wuyan's face changed greatly, and he wanted to return to his cave. With a wave of the sleeve of the flaming robe, Wei Wuyan and others were unable to move at once. Lungshang was fixed in the local area. "Everyone come out, or I'll set fire to the cave." Then, Yan Lai said aloud. With his voice, 20 or 30 nuns came out of the cave one after another. Each of them was as beautiful as a flower. Behind the nuns in the middle school, there were more than 10 nuns. From Huashan realm to Yuanying realm, his face was very ugly when he saw the fierce inflammation. But no one dares to escape, especially when they see the Marquis Jing'an lying on the grass nearby and the miserable-looking Huayenguang. They put out the idea. At first, some people began to kneel down towards Yan Lai, and then knelt down one after another, including Wei Wuyan. Everyone bowed their heads and dared not speak. At this time, ripples in the sky emerge one after another, and one by one the great friars of Yupu realm come to us one after another. It wasn't until nearly 70 great monks came that the ripples in the sky no longer appeared. Yi Tian nodded to some of the great friars who were familiar with him. Many of them had met, but the identity was not very clear. Some of them were very strange to Yi Tian. He was sure that he had never met those people. All the great friars he knew came here, which made Yi Tian realize that even if not all the great friars of Wanyu League came here, at least 9 times out of 10. This kind of strength can sweep the square-inch spirit realm absolutely. There are only 30 or 40 great friars in Yupu realm and Fengsuan spirit realm, and none of them has entered the Heaven Palace realm. After all, Fengsuan is a relatively small spiritual realm. Otherwise, how can we call it Fengsuan? After the arrival of many great monks, they did not speak. Instead, they took a look at all the people in the field one after another. They stood on one side and arranged their positions in order. Up to now, Yi Tian has known their general identity from their positions. The other 2 people standing with Tu Haitian, the king of Jinbei, and the king of Ningnan should be the king of Pingdong and the king of Pingxi. Yi Tian knew that King Pingdong was a nun, just corresponding to the 2 great monks, a man and a woman. Up to now, all the 4 kings have been seated in the right place. The 6 great friars who stood up with the Marquis of Lanling were naturally 8 marquis. One of them, who was not listed, was the Marquis of Jing'an who fell to one side. Then there are 15 great friars, which should be 15 of the 16 garrison envoys. But one of them is missing. Yi Tian guessed that it should be the original lord of Qingshan City, who had just been promoted to the position of garrison envoy. Because he could only cultivate the spiritual realm, he could not perform the great move skill, so he did not arrive in time. On the other side, it was the hall master of Dan Dao, the hall master of Changyu, Ran Zishan, the hall master of Changyu, Situ Shan, and another middle-aged monk. Yi Tian guessed that this man should be Yuan Kai, the master of Fudao General Hall. The rest of the great friars stood together. Yi Tian could easily judge that they were members of the old group of Wanyu Alliance leaders. They were responsible for different affairs in the Wanyu Alliance, and they were very important members of the Wanyu Alliance. Until no one came anymore, Yanlai said, "There is only one thing to call you here today." Being bewitched by his son Wei Wuyan, the Duke of Gingen ignored the rules of the alliance and lost his conscience. He colluded with the orcs and sent Huayanguang to fight Yi Tian, the first Dragon's Gate Saint's son and the special envoy of the alliance leader. After the defeat, he led his son, family members and subordinates to take refuge in the orcs and make enemies with the human race. Now I've been taken back by myself and dealt with in public. At this point, Yanlai suddenly drank. Where is the supreme law enforcement elder? My subordinates are here. Smell speech, from the elder team out of the 4 great friars, to Yanlai Bao. These great friars are the highest law enforcement elders specially appointed for the same level friars. If the low-level friars violate the league rules, naturally other law enforcement elders will punish them. Yanlai took a look at Huayanguang, who was very miserable on the grass. He said coldly, "This friar's name is Huayanguang. He is a subordinate of the Duke of Gingen. As a human friar, he obeys the orders of the Duke of Gingen and acts recklessly. He intends to attack and kill Yi Tian when he has no injustice or hatred with Yi Tian, the first son of Longmen and the special envoy of the alliance leader. I now rule that Huayanguang should be put to death in public, his soul destroyed and executed immediately." The alliance leader spared his life, and his subordinates were confused for a moment. They thought that they had not made a big mistake. "Please forgive me outside the law." Huayanguang heard that he had been so miserable, and the matter was not finished. Yanlai wanted to destroy his body and spirit, and immediately cried out for mercy. Yanlai has a cold face and doesn't speak, but a law enforcement elder of Yupu realm strides over and claps his hand on Huayanguang's head with the same expressionless face. With a click, Huayanguang's head was smashed. Yuaning, who was holding an inch-long magic weapon, the flying sword, came out of his abdomen and wanted to escape. However, the elder of the law enforcement reached out and held it in his hand. With a little force, Yuaning was crushed. "Come back!" The elder of law enforcement in Yupu territory arched his hand to Yanlai and then turned back to the team. Yanlai nodded slightly and looked at Wei Wuya. He said, "Wei Wuya is trained by Wanyu League. He doesn't want to work for the human race. Because of his personal resentment, he bewitches his father to kill Yi Tian. His crime is unforgivable. He will be executed and both the body and the spirit will be destroyed. Alliance leader, spare your life." "Father." Seeing Huayanguang executed, Wei Wuyan looks pale. He hears Yanlai announce his death penalty and immediately asks for mercy. Then he looks at his father, Marquis Jingen. "Alliance leader, all the mistakes will be borne by one of his subordinates. Please forgive my son." The Marquis of Jingen couldn't move, but his face changed greatly, but he pleaded with Yanlai. His expression was already tense and distressed. Yanlai didn't pay attention to it, but looked coldly at Jingan Marquis. Another law enforcement elder in the queue comes out, and the result is Wei Wuyan's life. However, the Marquis of Jingen gave a wail, and his body was shaking with a long tone. He closed his eyes and burst into tears. Yanlai ignored the Duke of Jingen, but looked at the nuns who came out of the magic cave, and said again, "This group of people are the Taoist couple and subordinates of the Duke of Lanling, and the Taoist couple and followers of Wei Wuyan. They have lost their humanity, and are willing to follow the Duke of Lanling to betray the human race, and go to the orcs. The old man orders them to be executed and destroy their form and spirit." More than 50 of these people knelt down on the ground and cried for mercy when they heard that Yanlai had also announced the execution. Yanlai had already made up his mind to kill them, but naturally he still ignored them. The 4 law enforcement envoys came forward and started to kill these people in a short time. All the people at the scene were silent, no one pleaded, and no one made any sound. The scene was in a mess, with scarlet blood everywhere, which made people feel extremely bloody. This time, Yanlai looked at the Marquis of Jingen again. At this time, the Marquis of Jingen had closed his eyes, his body was shaking violently, tears were winding down his closed eyelids, and his mouth was purring. There was no pity in Yanlai's eyes, and he continued to say, "During the period of the reign of Marquis Jingen, he did a lot of things to pervert the law, but I don't ask for any guilt today. Even if he betrayed the Terrans and went to the orcs, I would not be guilty. Only blame him to start to Leaf Day, only this one sin, should form spirit all perish." "Do it," Yanlai finished saying. The vision is icy and cold ground dampened the presence public, all people all know, Yanlai's kill machine how big, the mind how firm. With his voice, a Yupu law enforcement elder came out, smashed the head of Marquis Jing'an with the same palm, and then killed his god. Just now, the Marquis of Jing'an, who was in pain and tears, had become a dead man, lying on the scarlet grass. Tears glanced slowly over the body of Marquis Jing'an, and then said in a low voice, "Today's matter, inform the whole human race. If there is any more harm to Yi Tian, it will not only kill those who are involved, but also destroy the whole clan." Yes, the 4 law enforcement elders agreed and backed back. All the people on the scene can't help but feel awe-inspiring when they hear Yanlai's words. The alliance leader's feelings for Yi Tian's protection have reached the peak. He doesn't ask for any other crimes. He kills Marquis Jing'an just because it's bad for Yi Tian. Now it is announced that all those who are not good for Yi Tian will be destroyed. In this case, unless there is only one lonely family, all those who have family will not make Yi Tian's idea anymore. Thank you for your support. At this time, Yi Tian bowed to Yanlai, and naturally he was very grateful. Kill Hui Yanguan, kill Wei Wuyan, even those nuns and men, or even the Marquis of Jing'an. Yi Tiandu never said a word and let the elder of law enforcement execute. Since you have done something wrong, you have to be punished. What's more, it's related to your own life. No one can guarantee that you have Wei Wuyan's loyalty. You can find yourself in the future. As a matter of fact, a monk in the spirit realm is enough to give Yi Tian a headache. Today, if they hadn't just trained people to practice the skylocking array, the array flags would be in their hands. If they were suddenly attacked by Hui Yanguan, I'm afraid they might not have time to set up the array. Yi Xiandi, you have made outstanding contributions to the Wanyu Alliance and the Terran, and saved the Terran from extinction. If Elder Brother, as the leader of the Alliance, can't protect you well, then Elder Brother is not worthy to be the leader of the Alliance. Don't thank me. I'm really ashamed to kill my old brother. Yanlai stretched out his hand and said with a slightly embarrassed look. Then he looked at the 4 supreme law enforcement elders and said in a cold voice, "Thoroughly investigate all the subordinates of the Marquis Jing'an, search all the souls, execute all those who have bad deeds, and kill all those who have no bad deeds. But for those who are only obedient to the Marquis Jing'an, they are all imprisoned, when to release them, and wait for my order." Hearing the words, the public felt a sense of awe in their hearts. They thought that Yanlia's disposal was over, but they didn't expect that it would involve so many people. Even the subordinates had to investigate thoroughly. But everyone understands that Yanlai's practice is to nip the danger in the bud, and doesn't want to miss anyone who was bad for Yi Tian. After receiving the order, the 4 supreme law enforcement envoys disappeared from their original positions in a flash. Yanlai glanced at many corpses again and said to Yi Tian, "Yi Xiandi, you are shocked this time. Wanyu League has its own compensation." However, in addition to paying the price of the destruction of both the form and the spirit, the Marquis of Jing'an also had to express themselves. All their Shumi precepts have been given to Yi Xiandi. Now I announce that all his wealth has changed owners. With that, a Shumi ring in his hand is thrown to Yi Tian, which he took from the hand of Marquis Jing'an before. "Thank you, old brother." Yi Tian nodded slightly and said thank you. The wealth of a great monk in Yupu is very rich. Even Yi Tian has some expectations. Don't mention it. He's the price he'll pay for it. Yanlai waved his hand with a smile. Naturally, Yi Tian was not polite. He could not collect the others' Shumi precepts himself, so he waved to the disciples. "Yes, master." Nieba and others agreed that they just wanted to do it, but the Kunlun practitioners quickly stood up and saluted Nieba and others, saying, "How dare you work here with your disciples?" With that, without waiting for Nieba and others to respond, they all went to the corpses to collect Shumi precepts. There are many great friars on the scene. You look at me and I look at you. They all have complicated expressions on their faces. I feel that the relationship between Yi Tian and these people is chaotic. It's the first time many of them have heard these people call each other. A monk in Longmen Kingdom has a group of monks in Jindan Kingdom who recognize them as masters. What's more, even those disciples in Jindan Kingdom have a group of strange friars with meat wings who call them grandmasters. Yi Tian's generation is too big, right? Those friars in the Golden Elixir realm are so insightful. When Yi Tian's realm is still so low, they worship and take refuge. Their future achievements will be limitless. When thinking about this, people have already taken back all people's Shumi precepts and handed them to Tian. Tian glanced at it and found that there was a refined spirit beast ring inside. You don't have to look inside. Just look at the rune pattern and workmanship outside. You know that it's much higher than your own one. However, Tian didn't check it now. Instead, he put away the Shumi ring and the spirit beast ring. Then he took out a jade slip and handed it to Yanlai. Elder brother, this is the arrangement method of gathering spirit field that I recorded in my spare time. It's the kind of field that I arranged in the qualification test of Longmen Holy Sun. I can use the most common materials to arrange the field with 10 times of Reiki concentration. I hope it can be useful for the Terran friars. Yanlai took it seriously, put his hand on Tian's shoulder and nodded heavily. In the crowd, Ran Zishan, the master of the general hall of the field, suddenly brightened his eyes and came to Yanlai. Yanlai Xinyan went into the jade slips and gave it to Ran Zishan. He solemnly said, with this kind of field, the rejuvenation of the human race is just around the corner. The master of General Hall Ran doesn't need to be a private possession. He can cultivate more field masters and spread this kind of layout method to the human race. Ran Zishan agreed, excitedly took over the jade slips, and couldn't wait to see the contents in front of the burning face. Good. Wonderful. It's really a fantastic idea, fantastic. A moment later, Ran Zishan cheered excitedly and was very happy. Everyone, this expansion of the demons has come to an end. This battle, occupying 120,000 li of the demons' land in more than 300 cities, is enough for the Terrans. No matter how many Terrans there are, they can't eat it. When the Terrans need to cultivate themselves, they should not fight with the demons. After that, you will perform your duties and make sure that the occupied soil will gradually settle down. Moreover, more than 300 city leaders are needed to guard more than 300 cities. The establishment of the 4 thrones is not enough. I decided to promote the Marquis of Lanling to the throne today, named Lanling King. Responsible for all matters of Shindi, and put forward more than 300 city masters and corresponding garrison envoys as soon as possible. Within the scope of the human friars, they are free to choose. After Yanlai and Ran Zishan retreated, he spoke again. Thank you, Qian Pao. When the Marquis of Lanling suddenly heard of the appointment, he was stunned and then bowed himself to express his thanks. She couldn't believe it was true. He actually became the king directly from a marquis, and he was the king with the greatest power. You know, there were 4 lords in Wanyu League, who were responsible for governing more than 600 cities in the Terran area. On average, each prince is in charge of about 150 cities. There are more than 300 cities in charge of this area. Although the demons have just captured all of them, a large number of monks will soon move to guard them. There are more than 300 city masters in more than 300 cities, and there is a garrison envoy in every 16 cities, and these people can only be appointed after their own proposal. Power is not so great. Moreover, there must be a lot of Terran cultivation resources in these 300 cities, because the demons can't use them, and the wealth accumulated over a long period of time is certainly not a small amount. In addition to handing over most of the Wanyu League, there must be a lot left, which will bring endless benefits to our own cultivation. Why does Yanlai choose himself? The Marquis of Lanling knew that it must be because of Yi Tian. At that time, in Wanlagu, he and Marquis Jing'an presided over the qualification test of the Dragon's Gate Saint Sun, and he once said a fair word for Yi Tian. Then build Huajia Pool together, this time shovel for Yi Tian to get rid of danger, capture Hui Yenguang and report to Yanlai in time. What he has done makes Yanlai promote himself to be the king of Lanling and take charge of more than 300 cities. Want to understand this, Lanling Ho is also in the heart move, she thought of a deeper problem. That's why Yanlai made himself king because of what he did, and gave him so much power. Is it because Yi Tian? But only because Yi Tian is his brother, because he is the special envoy of the alliance leader in the first Dragon's Gate Saint Sun? Of course not. Alliance leader Yanlai will not privatize the affairs of the alliance. So there is only one reason, that is, Yanlai really has in mind the Leaf Day as a successor to cultivate. He has the best relationship with Yi Tian. If he is the closest, he will be in charge of the most cities and cultivate his own power. One day, when Yi Tian is in charge of Wanyu League, there will be less different voices and less turbulence among the people. After all, among the great friars of the human race, there are many who want to take over the position of the leader of the alliance after Yanli's ascent or other reasons. Now in front of Yanli, these great friars are well behaved. Who knows if there will be anyone who is not good for Yi Tian when Yanli is no longer there. Even if Yanli doesn't give Yi Tian the position of alliance leader too soon, once he gives it to others, will his successor do something unfavorable to Yi Tian, or even kill Yi Tian, in order not to give his position to Yi Tian in the future, or when he wants to give it to his relatives, nephews or disciples? By that time, perhaps the threat of the underworld, orcs and demons will not be as great as they are now. The Terrans will be particularly powerful. Without Yi Tian, the Terrans will be able to stand like mountains in front of the three tribes. Thinking of this, the Marquis of Lanling is awe-inspiring. Maybe Yanli trusted himself and gave the burden to himself. Maybe he wanted to connect or cultivate his own power as soon as possible and protect Yi Tian at that time. To understand this, in the voice of Yanli's thanks, the Marquis of Lanling, should be called the King of Lanling. He looked up at Yanli, but saw that Yanli was looking at himself and nodded slightly. As a result, the King of Lanling was more sure of his conjecture, and bowed himself again. The King of Lanling will not bear the trust of the alliance leader, and will spare no effort to fulfill his duty to the death. This statement expresses one's determination and has a meaning. Well, I believe you. Yanli smile, obviously understand Lanling King understand their own meaning, also said he also understand Lanling King's meaning. When the King of Lanling was newly appointed, the 4 princes present came to congratulate him one after another. The other 6 marquis also came to see the monks of the same level in a complicated mood. After all, although Lanling King and Lanling Marquis differ in one word, they are quite different in status. Marquis Lanling has soared to the sky. Under 1, over 10,000. The rest of the Presbyterian group and the temple owners also came to thank them. Neither the Presbyterian group nor the leaders of all the halls were subordinate to any one of the kings, but they were directly under the control of Yanli, the leader of the alliance. However, the responsibilities of the Presbyterian group and the temple owners cannot be separated from the support of the lords. So when the Marquis of Lanling became the King of Lanling, people also came to thank him. The King of Lanling saluted one by one and spoke politely. But between her social intercourse with the public, she has been rapidly choosing the people she can make friends with in the future, who can be drawn up for Yi Tian's use, and who can only maintain a superficial friendly relationship. Who can't be trusted. Because when fighting against other alien races, most of the human friars will work together, but when the danger of alien races is relieved, there will certainly be a lot of right and wrong in the face of all kinds of interest disputes within the human race. The 9th Yuming Emperor once said that there are various shortcomings of the human race, which clearly pointed out this point. The reason why the Terrans are united unprecedentedly is that they dare not unite in the face of the choice of life and death. As a result, the King of Lanling exchanged greetings and generally looked at his words to see how many people didn't sincerely congratulate him on his promotion to the King of Lanling, how many people were perfunctory, and how many people were jealous. Under her intentional observation, she found many details. Because of this, Lanling King admired Yanli's method even more. Call these great friars to frighten people with the death of Marquis Jing'an, and then promote yourself to the King of Lanling in public, which also provides you with an opportunity to know people. On the surface, it all started with a lot of cheers and ended with a lot of laughter. But there are many people, the King of Lanling, who already knows what he has done. That's it. Let's do our respective duties. King Lanling, you should also go to the newly acquired 300 cities to learn about the situation. In March, you should hand in the list of appointments. Wait for the person of congratulation to return to a position one after another. The inflammation fierce opens a mouth to say again. Yes, leader. The King of Lanling solemnly promised, but his heart was relaxed. The leader of Yan Alliance was really thinking about himself. He thought it would be at most 1 month, but now he gave himself 3 months. It can be seen that Yanli attaches great importance to this candidate. If selected by Yanli, those people will certainly lead the alliance leader's feelings, although they are within the scope of their own control, they may not be united with themselves. Then, if you put forward your own appointment list, everyone will be grateful. Even if there are ungrateful people, there will certainly be only a few. At this moment, Lanling King has decided that all the city leaders will not be selected from the current city leaders, but will be promoted from below. All the garrison envoys did not use the existing garrison envoys. They were all selected from the previous city masters. Having made up his mind, the king of Lanling arched his hand to Yanlai. Then Chon Yeti and nodded with a smile. His figure flashed and disappeared from the original place.